Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, I guess, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another live stream from wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Let me know what you're doing. Say hello in the chat. And today, hopefully, should be a relatively chilled stream. I think in comparison to the last one, when we all had unlimited transfers, most of us only have a few decisions to make this week. And I've seen already that quite a few people have actually made their transfers too. So do say hello. Let me know that you can hear me, you can see me. And like I said, 2 hours, 15 minutes before the deadline. Hopefully, it'll be a relatively chilled one. Do start getting your questions in as well. I'll go through all of your questions around whether it's worth bringing in Mitrovic. Do you take out Martial, Reece James replacements, bench order, vice captaincy? Going to discuss all of that. I've seen lots of questions already, but do say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Good to see a lot of the regulars in the chat as well. And yeah, hopefully should be a good stream. Got hello from Portugal, hello from Nepal, 9:45. Good to see you. On the way up north in the car, as long as you're concentrating on your driving, or unless someone else is driving, that's absolutely fine. I can hear you, I can see you. Thank you, Andre. I appreciate you, my man. Hello from Croatia. I was discussing with someone yesterday how much I want to go to Croatia. So listen, if you want to do a meetup in Croatia, maybe that sounds good. Hello from Cyprus. Good to see you. Bhutan. I don't know why I said that in a French accent. Hello. Martial's minutes, probably similar to what we saw in Game Week 17. I reckon 70 minutes-ish. The legend himself, Ross, thank you for being here, Max. I appreciate you. Do I get rid of Martial for Mitrovic or wait? It's a good question. We will discuss all of that. Thank you very much to Flapjack Gaming for becoming a Raptor member as well. I do appreciate you very much. Got the Indian football coach here. Hi, Merry Christmas, bro. Hope you're good. Is this my... No, I did a Boxing Day deadline stream. Ignore me. I was going to say this is my first stream after Christmas. I hope we all had a good Christmas, by the way. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. I was back with the family. New setup, slightly different setup. That's why I'm so zoomed in on my face. I'm normally a little bit further back, but my green screen is pressed up behind me. Limited space. Japan, Cape Town, Poland, Morocco. Truly international as always. So, without further ado, I know you guys love it when I say that. Some people don't. Let's talk about sort of roughly what I'm thinking with my team this week and next week. And I think that once I've done that, it will give you a bit of a better idea about where I stand with Reece James, Mitrovic, players like that. And then I can go on to answering your questions as well. And I've just seen Chisel Planet's been a member for 2 months. He just says, Merry Christmas, mate, and everyone else. Always an absolute gentleman. So, let's take a look at my team. Firstly, Green Arrow in Game Week 17 was definitely welcome because if I just quickly show you, it's been an absolute state in recent weeks. This is my Game Week history. Look at all of those red arrows. So if I just show you from Game Week 1, or from Game Week 2 to Game Week 9, look at all these green arrows we had, up to 149th in the world, and then it's been 5 red arrows in the last 6 weeks before the World Cup, I should say. So delighted to get a green arrow. But moving forward into Game Week 18, the plan is currently to roll my transfer, because I'm not entirely sure who I want to bring in for Reece James. And I also might want to bring in someone like a Mount or a Havertz next week. And if I do that, I might need to make 2 transfers to do it. And I might need to downgrade James further than I think. So I need to think about all of that. The only thing I would say is my current plan is potentially to bring in Cucurella for James in Game Week 19. Game Week 19? Yeah, Game Week 19. And I think if I'm going to do that anyway, does it make more sense to just do it this week? Now, I know I've lost 0.1 million because Cucurella's gone up in price. But one of the better fixtures for Chelsea is this week against Nottingham Forest. Now, I'm not necessarily predicting a clean sheet, but the fact that I've benched Kepa means I'm not covering the clean sheet at all. And do I think Cucurella against Nottingham Forest is better than Ben White against Brighton? I would say potentially the answer to that is yes. And if that is the case, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to bring in Cucurella next week, do I just make the move this week? Hopefully that makes sense. And I think that potentially justifies making the move. The only thing I would say is, like I said, it might change my plan for next week and who I want to bring in, who I want to upgrade and how much I need. And it might be that I actually need to go cheaper than Cucurella. Maybe I need to go down to a dunk. It could also be, very, very unlikely this is the case, that we get a double game week announcement before game week 19. I think game week 19 is Monday, though, so I highly doubt over the weekend we're going to get a double game week announcement. But I'm just trying to think through all of these things. And I guess the fact that I have Ben White as a potential option to bring off the bench in the absence of Reece James, I don't need to make the transfer this week. I have put a poll in the chat, by the way, guys. Just let me know, have you already sold? Are you looking to sell him this week? Are you looking to sell him in Game Week 19, or do you not own Reece James? There is a poll in the chat now. Make sure to vote on that. Flapjack Gaming says, hi, I love your videos. Thank you very much, my man or woman. Start Andreas or White. I would start Andreas if you can. I think I think Andreas is an excellent option this week. I have run a poll over on Twitter, which we'll move over to in a second, which is asking, would you start Andreas or Martial? Because I know that's a question a lot of people are having. Wolves aren't a terrible defence. Southampton have been pretty terrible defensively. Andreas has looked pretty good, and obviously Martial only gets sort of 60 to 70 minutes, and it's away from home for Manchester United. So a lot of people are looking at it and thinking, maybe Andreas is a better option than Martial. As you can see here, I don't think so, but I've run a poll over on Twitter to just keep seeing what the community says, basically. Benching Kepa again, champ. I am at the moment benching Kepa again. What is it? The insanity quote, doing the same thing over and over again. Maybe this week will be fine. I do think this is a better fixture for Ederson. Everton at home, in my opinion, is a better fixture than Forest away. I think Forest at home for Forest, I think they're fantastic, and I do think they'll probably score against Chelsea if I had to bet. We'll see. Maybe the players to play Kepa, but I'm leaning towards Ederson at the moment, mainly for the home fixture, but also Everton are pretty toothless in attack. Great content as always. I think I need to sell James this week because I went for Dunk over White. Yeah, Dunk's obviously not got the best fixture, but I mean, they're playing against each other. It's at home for Dunk. Arguably an equally difficult fixture for both. I think I need to sell James this week, because you went Dunk. Who do you prefer, Cucurella or Azpilicueta? I think very, very short term, Azpilicueta should play as long as they stick with the back four. The worry is if they switch to a back five, then Azpilicueta is no longer as nailed as we think he is. I think I would go Cucurella myself. But I think they're both fine for the very short-term future. I think with Chilwell coming back, with apparently Chelsea looking to sign a left centre-back as well, which may see us switch to a back five, and may also mean that's one less position that Cucurella can play. I think both Cucurella and Azpilicueta are probably long-term rotation risks, but over the short term, I'd expect both to start most games. My fellow Ross Wheeler says, Wilson to Havertz or someone else? I like Havertz a lot. I think Havertz and Mitrovic are probably the two best replacements for Wilson, and I don't mind Martial. I think any of those three, even Nketiah is fine. But I would probably say, just due to the double game week in 19, I think Havertz and Mitrovic are probably the two best replacements for Wilson, or for Martial if you're looking to sell him. It's just up to you what you want to do with that 4 yellow cards for Mitrovic, obviously, isn't it? 419 Merchant says, evening, Baldy. Good evening to you too. What transfer should I do first? James to Shaw or Wilson to Havertz? I would do one this week, the other for game week 19. James to Shaw or Wilson to Havertz? Well, that's completely up to you. If you're going to do both of them anyway, it's basically, do you think Shaw will outscore Havertz? I think I would rather Havertz than Shaw. So I would probably do the Wilson to Havertz move and then James to Shaw next week. The only thing I would say is I think James is closer to a price fall than Wilson. Let me double check that. Let me double check the price changes. But I think if that is the case, then it might be that you want to... Sorry, I just moved that over. It might be that you want to do the James move first to save a bit of team value, but I think I would prefer Havertz against Forest than I would Shaw against Wolves. But I think they're both good options. I'd love to have Havertz this week. Let's have a look how close Wilson is. Yeah, so Wilson's not really close to a price fall, whereas James is very close. So if you want to save 0.1 million, maybe the better option to go for is moving James on this week, but otherwise I'd probably sell Wilson for Havertz. Why such a controversial captain? Is that a controversial captain? Haaland against Everton at home? I think that's a controversial captain. Why is Wilson not playing at all? Apparently Wilson's ill, but he's been ill for like over a month, unless it's two different sorts of illness or two different bouts of illness. Is James to Shaw a good move? Yeah, I would argue that it's one of the better transfers. Let me know in the chat, guys. If you've already sold... if you've already sold Reece James or you're looking to sell Reece James soon in the next few days, I assume you are, who are you either already brought in or who are you looking to bring in for Reece James? Very interested to hear your thoughts. Sorry if you can hear my squeaky chair, by the way. It's extremely squeaky. Almiron or Martial? Probably Almiron, probably Almiron. I went for Martial last week, but Almiron and Newcastle just look unbelievable. But I think both of them are fine short-term and long-term. I don't think you can go wrong with either. I do like the fact that Martial is Manchester United's starting number 9. It doesn't look very likely that Manchester United will sign a number 9 anytime soon. So I think Martial will get the next two against Wolves and Bournemouth. And then after the two tricky games in 20 and 21, Manchester United's fixtures are good again. So if we don't sign a forward, or we sign a forward that's maybe not as good as Martial and he's back up instead, then I actually really don't mind Martial long term. But I think if I take off my bias, if I just lean back, you can see slightly biased head off, then maybe I would probably recommend Almiron. And obviously he gets the extra point for a clean sheet, extra point for a goal as well. So yeah. By the way, if you are enjoying the stream, please do drop a like on the stream. There are almost 2,000 people and only 100 likes. That's an all-time record for terrible like to viewer ratio. So if you're enjoying the stream, please do drop a like and make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. We are moving towards 56,000 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. Andreas or Wilson to start? I would start Andreas myself. Andreas or Nketiah? I would start Nketiah personally. I think Nketiah's looked like he was struggling in the first half, but second half his movement was really, really good and he took his chance very well. So I would start Nketiah. I do expect Arsenal to score a goal or two at the very least. Andreas or Martial? I'm currently leading Martial. Let's have a look at what the poll's saying over on Twitter, because I did run a poll for you guys over on Twitter as well. 2 seconds. Flapjack Gaming with another super chat just says, I love your videos, Ross. You've really helped me in my FPL journey. Thank you so much. I appreciate you watching them for the donation as well, my man. Thank you very, very much for watching the videos. Right. So let's move over to Twitter. Can you guys see that? Yeah, you can see that. Excellent. Right. So if I just go to my pro, make sure to follow me over on Twitter as well at FPL__Raptor. There we go. I've run a poll already on over 2,000 votes. 70% are saying start Martial, 30% are saying Andreas. The thing is with a poll, we don't know if people are lying to try and sabotage our teams, right? You can't really get too much from a poll, but I do think you can get the general consensus, which is most people would start Martial. I, of course, understand the justification for starting Andreas. Andreas is playing Southampton at home. So whether you're looking at playing Andreas ahead of Wilson and Nketiah, Martial, Martinelli, I've seen a few, like I do get that. And in game week 17, Andreas accumulated 0.89 expected goal involvement. So I really do like Andreas as an option. And if I had any players with like really tricky fixtures, let's say like, I don't know, maybe Martinelli had Chelsea or maybe Martial had Chelsea, I would probably start Andreas. But I don't think any of my front seven have a tricky fixture. God, that squeaking of the chair is really going to do my head in. What I would say is a lot of people are saying that Wolves are a really strong defence, and under the new manager, there's a new manager bounce, and they're really strong defensively. They conceded, I think it was 1.74 expected goals against Everton. As Everton are one of the worst attacks in the league, and they conceded almost 2 expected goals. So I think Manchester United, a team that are playing really, really well, yes, it's away from home, right? So it's not as easy as it was for Everton. I'm almost certain Everton were at home that game. And yes, obviously they've had a game to get back into the swing of things now, Wolves. But I don't look at the Wolves team, even under the new manager, and say that's a really strong defence. I still think they're a team that you could get at. So the general consensus looks like it is Martial, and that's the way I was going to say that's the way I'm leaning. I'm definitely starting Martial. I have no intention of starting Andreas. But Andreas as a first sub is really nice, right? I've got Andreas there. If Foden misses out altogether, if maybe something happens to one of your attackers that you don't expect, then you've got Andreas there. But I don't personally think I would be starting Andreas ahead of Martial. I think you're talking about the number 9 for Manchester United, a team that are playing really well with a very decent fixture. Yes, Andreas is on set pieces, and yes, Fulham do. I think Fulham have scored in every home game this season. I'd still back Martial to outscore him. That being said, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see how Andreas does. Chisel Planet has gifted a Rap Tier membership already. Thank you very much, Chisel Planet, the man that just keeps on giving. I appreciate you. Oh, and it was Zach. Well done, Zach. You got the Rap Tier membership gifted from Mr. Chisel Planet. So do make sure to thank him in the chat. Andreas or Foden? I would start Foden. Players that I would start Andreas ahead of are players that just aren't that great. Maybe you've picked someone like a Højbjerg or someone, like just a random player that you've picked in there just because they're cheap and you couldn't afford anyone much better. And then maybe I would probably start Andreas ahead of Wilson as well. Outside of that, I wouldn't start him ahead of the likes of Martinelli, Foden, Rashford, Martin. I just don't think that makes a ton of sense. Yes, Andreas' stats are okay. Yes, Fulham tend to score at home. But the rest of the players are excellent and you've picked them for a reason. And I don't think I'm being biased by price here. I genuinely just think it's because all of the other attackers that we've likely picked have decent fixtures this week. Next week, I'm absolutely starting Andreas. Andreas is a double game week. Yes, one of the fixtures aren't great, but I will absolutely be starting Andreas next week. But this week, I don't think it makes the most sense, personally. Jamie Clark says, hey, Ross, Wilson, James for Robbo and Nketiah and a -1. I assume you mean a -4. I don't think you need to make both this week, likely. Although I guess you need to do Nketiah in for Wilson to fund James to Robertson. And you probably... Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't think you need to make that -4 this week. You could do Wilson to Nketiah and then move for Robertson next week. Or you could... I guess I don't mind the hit. But I always think a hit in a week you don't need to. And when it's involving a defender who's really reliant on a clean sheet... I'm not a massive fan of a hit there, but as hits go, that's not bad, Jamie. It's not bad. Oscar says, thoughts on Foden looking into the long term. Let's see what happens this week. If he's benched again, I'm probably moving him on for Mount in game week 19. So looking at my long-term plan, I'm looking at in game week 19, obviously bringing in one of like Mitrovic, Havertz, or Mount, and probably captaining them because I'm looking at, I really do want to captain a double game week attacker. I don't mind captaining Andreas, but I think there are better attackers to captain. If Foden's benched or doesn't look good, or there's signs that we don't think he'll start in game week 19 again and he looks like a real rotation risk for some reason, then I'll probably move him on. So I do think this Everton game is important because otherwise that's going to be like 5 in the last 6 weeks that he's been benched. And we've seen Mahrez has gone on similar runs in the past. Mahrez starts like every game and then he's benched like 8 or 9 in a row. And I think when a player's out of favour with Pep, they tend to stay out of favour for a while. And at 8.3 million, he's not justifying his price tag at all unless he's starting regularly. So yes, City have 2 double game weeks coming up, but if Foden's not going to be starting them, the doubles don't really matter at all. I do like Saka as well. The issue is obviously, like I said, like Mount has a double game week in 19. Maybe I could bring in Havertz instead. Like I'm looking at attackers that have the double in 19. And then maybe like Arsenal have a chance. I think it's about a 60% chance for a double in 21. Then I can maybe look to bring in Saka after that. Remember, we do have free transfers. And I think I forget this when I'm giving advice when I'm planning my team. You have a free transfer every week. So if I want to do like Foden to Mount, Mount to Saka, yes, obviously we get random injuries like James has got, but most of the time, if your team's well set up, you can afford to be aggressive with your transfers like that. Obviously, if there are loads of injuries, then maybe you can't. But I don't think it's too bad to have a rough idea of plan transfers. I don't think you want to book them in. I think you want to say, right, this week I'm going to do Foden, this person, and this week I'm going to do this person, this person. But you can say in general, I want to start attacking the doubles. I'm looking at Mount, then I'm maybe looking to move to Saka. Maybe then after that, it'll be Almiron. You can have these in mind, I think. And that's roughly what I'm doing. I've got a vague plan of the weeks that I want to bring in certain players. And if I have the transfers to do it, then I'll probably do it. Is Azpilicueta a good move to replace Reece James? Yeah, I don't mind it, but again, it's very reliant, I think, anyway. I know Azpilicueta can play right centre-back, but I do think it is reliant on Chelsea playing a back 4. I think as soon as Chelsea switch to a back 5, I do think Azpilicueta can play right wing-back, and he can play right centre-back, and he probably will feature there, but I don't think he's as nailed on, because I think there are other players that can play right wing-back and right centre-back, whereas right-back in a back 4, I think Azpilicueta is arguably the only player that can really naturally play there, at least of the players that are fit at the moment. So I think a back 4 really suits Azpilicueta, but it depends if Chelsea stick to that, of course. So I'm just trying to make sure I haven't missed any super chats. Appreciate what you're doing. Should I swap Walker? Walker's a tricky one, isn't he? Because so if you watch my streams and videos, you probably wouldn't have picked Walker because I kept highly recommending not picking Walker because Walker didn't look like he was going to start in 17. A lot of the predictors predicted that Stones would start at right back or Lewis, which was the case. And then it looks like he probably isn't nailed on for the future. And the reason I said that is Ake can play left back, which means Cancelo at right back. Lewis looks really, really good. The young City fullback, wing back, whatever you want to call him, inverted fullback. And you've also got John Stones that can play right back. And to some extent, I suppose they could put a Kanji there. I think there are far too many players that can play at right back now for Walker to be nailed. And the annoying thing about Walker, in my opinion, is I think Walker is significantly more likely to play the tricky games for City. I think he'll play the games like Arsenal and Manchester United and Liverpool because Walker's absolutely excellent defensively and I think he's better than anyone else that they can put there. And I think Cancelo at left back playing the inverted role with a back 3 of like Walker, Akanji and Laporte. I think that's the way that City want to line up in those tricky games. So I think with Walker, the games that he'll miss are the games that they're probably more likely to get a clean sheet from. And at 4.8, he's just got no attacking threat. Yes, he could score the odd goal, but it's very unlikely. He's got some of the worst stats in the league for defenders at that price point. So I think when you can get the likes of a Luke Shaw instead, when you can get the likes of a Dunk who might have a double, or even someone like a Ben White, I think they've all got more attacking threat. And I do think that because they're going to play more games, especially someone like Dunk and White, they never miss a game, you're probably likely to get a similar amount of clean sheets because Walker will miss games. So I don't think you need to rush Walker out, but I do think, and it's what I've been saying for a couple of weeks now, I don't think Walker's the best pick personally. And I think maybe if you do own Walker, you maybe are looking to sell when you get a spare free transfer. But with things happening to Wilson, James, with doubles coming up, maybe it's not a priority transfer to sell Walker. Maybe you just play him this week and hope he starts. It is worth noting Luke and someone else. There are 2 or 3 accounts that predict City lineups. 2 of them have predicted Walker to start, and then one of them has predicted Walker to be on the bench again. So it's difficult to try and predict, but there is a decent chance Walker starts this week. If you need him, maybe it's worth selling. Maybe it's worth selling. I think I missed one. Max Hooper says, you deserve a lot more recognition than you get. I appreciate that, Max. Thank you very much for the kind words. I'm perfectly happy with the amount of recognition that I get. You don't need to spam if I've missed your super chat. I'll try and get around to it as quickly as possible. A lot of people interested in Shaw. I do think Shaw's a fantastic fullback. I do think he's absolutely brilliant. The only thing is a lot of other teams have slightly tricky fixtures in 20 and 21. And if that is the case, then I don't think you want to bring in Shaw if you really need a player in 20 and 21. But if you can cover one of those weeks, if you've got a decent player in 20, or you're maybe planning on bringing in a doubler in 21, and you think you might only have to play Shaw in one of the weeks, then I think that's okay, because Manchester United do go relatively tight at the back against big teams. We've seen it in the past. Manchester United last season beat City, or the season before, beat City 2-0, and Bruno Fernandes and Luke Shaw scored. Because I remember, because I sold Luke Shaw and Bruno Fernandes. But Shaw picked up a 15-pointer. I'm not saying that's going to happen regularly, but I'm saying it can happen. That Manchester United go very tight at the back, and they beat teams on the counter-attack. So I don't think it's an issue having to play Shaw in 20 and 21, but I don't think you necessarily want to bring him in for the next 4 fixtures when we're unlikely to have a double. We could potentially have a double, and 2 of those are pretty tricky fixtures. So I think you need to think about your team and the way that your team's currently set up. Who do you start between Pereira and Almiron? I would start Almiron personally. Like I said, the only main attacker that I would probably be happy starting Andreas ahead of, like a lot of people own, is probably Wilson, just because I think there's a very good chance he's on the bench. It sounds like he's been back in training, but he's not fully fit. So I don't think he'll start, but I think there's a small chance that Wilson's on the bench. And then you've got the chance for cameo. So I would rather Andreas for 90 than Wilson at the risk of like 20. I'm just getting to those now, Frosty. So Kai says, free hit and then swap in Salah, Shaw, Edison. I wouldn't free hit. No, I don't think free hit's good this week. Another one. Should I swap KDB to Salah and Almiron to Foden? I would keep whichever of those you own. I don't know which way you're saying here. If you've got KDB and Almiron, I would not switch to Salah and Foden. And I wouldn't switch Salah and Foden to KDB and Almiron. I think keep whoever you've got there. I think all 4 are decent options. Maybe Foden might be an issue long term, though. Sorry, my mic's blocking my screen. I'm having to like move around here. Who to start? Gabriel, Shaw, and Andreas Erdegaard. I would start Erdegaard ahead of Andreas, and I would start Shaw ahead of Gabriel. So hopefully I've got round to all of those there. Is Kepa a good keeper? Yeah, I think Kepa's a good keeper. I would start in most weeks. I just think if you've got like Ward, for example, but I've got Edison in there and I chose to do this keeper rotation. Whether I regret it or not, we'll find out. If Kepa keeps a clean sheet again and Edison concedes again, I'll probably admit that it was a mistake. But I prefer Edison against Everton at home. If it was Everton away, I might still play Edison just because City are a much better defence, but it makes the decision a lot trickier if that was the case. Cancelo or Fabian Schär? Cancelo 5 million%. Andreas or Trossard? That's actually a very tricky one. Chat, what would you do there? That's one that I did actually have difficulties answering. Andreas or Trossard? Because Trossard's stats are better than Andreas's, but Andreas is on so many set pieces. If Mitrovic is off for any reason, if he gets limited minutes, Andreas will take pens. And it's a much better fixture, Southampton at home in comparison to Arsenal at home. So would you start Trossard or Andreas? I would just about lean Andreas probably, but I would argue that that's actually a 50-50 decision. I think Andreas Trossard is probably the most difficult decision out of everyone. I think every other decision I think is pretty easy to make. Most people, yeah, it's honestly 50-50. Some saying Trossard, some saying Andreas. What are your thoughts on Botman for James? Gareth says, I really like Botman as an option. Only 4.4 million, unless he's gone up in price. He might be 4.5 now. I like the idea of a double up on the Newcastle attack. The only thing that I would say is if you've already got Trippier plus Almiron, I'm not sure I would go for Botman as well, just because it blocks the option to go for an Isak or a Wilson if you want to in the future. So I don't mind Botman, but I don't think you would want to maybe fill up your third Newcastle spot, and maybe someone else will emerge that we don't think of. So I think I would try and leave that third Newcastle spot open. Because when Wilson is fit, Wilson is a great option. He's just ill at the moment, of course. And I do think when Isak is back, if Isak starts to play alongside Almiron and Wilson, and he gets regular minutes, Isak could be a really decent option too. Remember, before Isak got injured, a lot of us had him in our team. So I think I would leave that third Newcastle spot open. The other thing with Botman is he's not a bad attacking threat. He's got some XG, but I do think there are slightly more attacking options. I think the only reason you would go for Botman is to save money. If you have the money to go for someone like a Shaw or a White instead, I think I prefer that. And it's a similar thing with Gabriel. I've seen a lot of people asking about Gabriel and Ben White. I wouldn't go for double Arsenal defence. I think at some point very soon, you're going to want to own two of Nketiah/Jesus, Martinelli, Ødegaard, and Saka. I don't think you want to have double Arsenal defence like White and Gabriel, because you're going to want to jump on those attackers. So I would have no more than one Arsenal defender, and I would leave that third spot open if you've got it to jump on the likes of Martinelli, Saka, Nketiah, and Ødegaard. And I think maybe give it a couple more weeks to decide, maybe before a potential double in 21 for Arsenal. I'm actually looking at Ødegaard. It's really difficult to try and remove prior sort of preconceptions, because in the past, Ødegaard has not been an FPL option. I've actually confidently looked at the camera in chat in a live stream with thousands of people watching and said, do not pick Ødegaard. Ødegaard is a terrible FPL option, because his stats have always been really poor up till this season. We're talking about sort of like a 0.25, 0.3 expected goal involvement, I should say. His stats are never great. There's some creativity there, but not a great goal threat. This season, and especially in sort of the last 6 to 10 game weeks, he's getting some big chances and he's accumulating quite a high expected goal involvement. So I think current Ødegaard is a serious FPL option, and he's of course a lot cheaper than Saka. So I'm really starting to think maybe Ødegaard is the one to double up with alongside Martinelli. See, Frosty is a very good FPL manager. He said, Andreas over Martinelli this week for me. I will try to make you see the light. We suck at the Amex. So Frosty is an Arsenal fan and very, very pessimistic. But some people starting Andreas ahead of Martinelli. I think that's absolutely bonkers, but we'll wait and see. The good thing is for Andreas, then he is at home and Martinelli's away. And the Amex isn't an easy place to go to. Brighton away is not an easy fixture. I still favour Martinelli. Is there a case for captaining Salah over Haaland? Is there anyone in the chat that is captain Salah over Haaland, or maybe like a Darwin? I think yes. As I said in my team selection video, if there is a week that Haaland gets limited minutes, he'll start. I'm sure he'll start. But if there's a week that he gets limited minutes, this is the week to do it. With the way that the fixtures are running, this is the shortest gap in between games that City have. So if you are going to give Haaland 60, 70 minutes, this is the game to do it. The only thing I would say around that is Haaland only comes off when City have wrapped the game up. And if City have wrapped the game up after 60, 70 minutes, it's probably Haaland that's wrapped up the game for them. So even if he only sees 60, 70, it's probably at least one return for him. So for that reason, I'm captaining Haaland. But I do think if there is a week to go against him, other than next week when there's a double game week, I don't hate it this week. And I think both Darwin and Salah are decent options. I don't think I would go for anyone outside Darwin and Salah. I wouldn't go for a De Bruyne. I wouldn't go for a Kane personally. I think it would have to be one of those two. But yeah, I'm going to captain Haaland. Which defenders do you consider to replace Reece James? For me, it's one of Cucurella or Dunk, probably. Maybe Botman, but probably Cucurella or Dunk. But like I said, if I'm going to do the Cucurella transfer, I could just do it this week, because Cucurella against Nottingham Forest is a better option than White against Brighton. That could be a tight game at the Amex, but although I was going to say White is a 6-point ceiling, but White looked very attacking in game week 17. He had really did have a few chances to pull the ball back, and he got into some really decent crossing positions. So got the same forwards, but I want to start 5 midfielders. Who to sell? If you've got the same forwards as me, then you'd sell Martial. I don't think you want to sell Darwin or Haaland. I fancy Darwin captain, Haaland at risk with expected minutes. I don't mind it, Ellis. If Darwin one of these weeks actually cashes in on that XG and he starts converting some of these big chances, Darwin is going to go big at some point. I've been saying that all season and he hasn't really, but he will go big at some point. So I don't mind it. Leicester at home is a decent fixture. Leicester looked super, super poor in game week 17. The only thing is with Leicester looking really poor in game week 17 is they conceded 2 goals very early, and that is obviously quite disheartening. So if they don't concede the early goal against Liverpool, maybe they get the crowd on their side. It could be a tricky evening, I guess, for Liverpool, but I don't mind Darwin. Chris says, happy Friday, bruv. Good to see you, Chris. I know it may be random. What about bench boost? Has it even crossed your mind if you get Cucurella? If not, when would you bench boost? No, it's not crossed my mind. I've got Castagna there, and at the moment, with the fixtures over Christmas, I always think I don't know if I'm going to need anyone off my bench. Like, for example, Foden got benched. What happens if Foden doesn't come on at all? I don't think anyone outside it. Maybe Malacia starts ahead of Shaw. I think that's very unlikely, but I might need one player from my bench. Plus, I've got Castagna on there. I don't think this is the week to bench boost. But like you've said, if I do bring in Cucurella, I would have Ben White, Kepa, and Andreas on the bench. That is a very strong bench. So I know I'm going to leave points on the bench. The next question then you've asked is, if I don't bench boost this week, when's the best time to bench boost? We're going to have some massive double game weeks later in the season. I think it was game week 29, 34, and 37. Something like that. But in the last sort of 10 game weeks of the season, we tend to have some really big double game weeks. And with the cheap players that we've got, the likes of Almiron, Martinelli, Rashford, I think we can put together, especially if you time it with your wild card, I reckon we can put together an insanely strong bench boost, like much stronger than usual years, because normally we have to put like £4 million defenders on our bench boost just due to the way that the players have been priced. This year, we can probably get away with having the likes of Almiron and Martinelli on the bench and even more expensive players in our team, especially as we build up team value throughout the season. So to answer your question, no, I'm not bench boosting. I'm not considering it. I like to play my bench boost in a double game week, I guess. Isn't Shaw a good option for James? I already own Luke Shaw. So yeah, I think Shaw's a great option. But I already own him, so that's why I didn't mention him. Marcus asked, Martial or Mitrovic for the next 3 game weeks? If you are happy playing the suspension tightrope game with Mitrovic, because remember, Mitrovic is on 4 yellow cards. So if he gets yellow carded in game week 18 or game week 19, then he's going to miss one of the doubles, one of the games in the double, unless he gets booked in the final game of the double game week. So he's on a suspension tightrope. If you're happy to risk that, I do think Mitrovic is a better option than Martial. If you don't want to risk that, you've obviously got Wolves and Bournemouth in the next 2 for Martial. And then after 20 and 21, Martial has nice fixtures. So it's completely up to you, I guess. If you think Mitrovic will escape the next 2 without a booking, I probably prefer him. Pick 2, Zaha, Trossard, and Andreas. I would probably play Zaha and Andreas just. But like I said, I think Trossard versus Andreas is like a 50-50. I could definitely see Trossard scoring, for sure. None of the double game weeks look great. What are your thoughts? I agree. A double game week is still a double, though, and you've still got an extra 90 minutes. Even if it's against a team that you think they won't accumulate a massive XG, it's still a full extra chance, assuming that they play both games. It's a full extra chance to get some attacking returns. And usually a player in a double game week gets a floor of about 3 or 4 points, sometimes 5 points if they get like a clean sheet point as a midfielder, or maybe the odd bonus point, or maybe like an assist. You tend to expect sort of a minimum of 4 to 5 points from your players in a double. So I still like a double game week for that reason. But yeah, I agree that these doubles at the moment don't look great. But later in the season, there will be some excellent doubles for sure. These are just some of the smaller doubles that we have at the midway point of the season. Like I said, around sort of game week 28, 29, we'll have at least 3 big double game weeks, and there'll be one massive one because we've got all the fixtures to rearrange from the Queen's death, I believe. There was the full game week of games that we have to rearrange at some point. So there will be an absolutely massive double game week at some point later in the season. If you're enjoying today's stream, by the way, and you're getting some value from me just ranting and talking about random stuff, please do drop a like on the stream and make sure to subscribe as well. We are approaching 56,000. I think we're a little bit short. Yeah, we've got still another 500 subscribers until 56,000, but do still subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the stream. I do massively appreciate that. You missed my super chat. I'm very sorry. Let me have a look if I can see it. Also, another gifted membership from Chisel Planet. I do really appreciate you, my man. I don't know who got it at that time. It was Farran got the gifted membership, so do make sure to thank Chisel Planet. Right, Frosty is sending me the stuff. Martial, Mitrovic, done that one. Done that one. Foden or Martinelli, play 1, bench 1. I would start Foden ahead of Martinelli. Just. I have Wilson and James. Play White and AP and roll. Why don't I know who AP is? Oh, Andreas Pereira. I have Wilson and James. Play White and Andreas Pereira and roll. Yeah, I think I would do that, Omar. I think they're both great options. White and Andreas Pereira are absolutely fine. Or you could do Wilson to Mitrovic. I would be tempted by Wilson to Mitrovic, but I also think you can roll. And I think White and Andreas Pereira are absolutely fine. Perisic or White to start? I'd start Perisic. I think Perisic is predicted to start by Paul O'Keefe. I'd go Perisic. Cool. I think that's most of them done. Tough questions today. I agree, Zodiac. There's not as many questions today as obviously in like a wildcard or unlimited transfers. But the questions being asked are sort of very, very 50-50. Very tricky decisions. Thoughts on Doherty or Perisic to replace James? I just don't like... I can't be bothered with the headache. The thing is with someone like a Phil Foden, I can be bothered with the headache every now and again because it's worth it. Spurs at the moment don't look like a team that are going to keep a clean sheet. So I don't think it's worth the headache of Perisic versus Doherty. If they were keeping clean sheets and if Doherty and Perisic were getting a lot of attacking returns and they were getting like regular 12 to 15 pointers, keeping clean sheets as well, getting bonus points, then it's worth the headache each week. But with Sessegnon and Emerson Royale waiting in the wings, with the games coming thick and fast, it's just not worth it for me. But Paul O'Keefe has predicted Doherty and Perisic to start in game week 18. So if you want to go there, I don't mind it. I think Perisic is slightly more nailed because he can play on both sides, and I just think he's a slightly better attacker. But I do like Doherty as well, and obviously Doherty's cheaper than Perisic. Is anyone else considering Doherty and Perisic? It's just not the one for me. I'm just not fully convinced there myself. Let me have a quick drink, 2 seconds. What about Castagna for James? You know I love Castagna because I've got Castagna in my team. I've had him in my team since game week 9, game week 10. They're not great fixtures for Leicester, but if he rotates well with your current defence, absolutely. He rotates really well with my current defenders because I've planned that rotation. But you've got Fulham and Forest in the next 2, and Brighton at home is not a terrible fixture. Villa away. You've then got a really tricky run from sort of 23 to 25, and then a fine run from sort of 26 onwards. So their fixtures aren't fantastic, and obviously Liverpool this week is a slight issue. If you need the defender this week, then Castagna's not the one. If you're looking a little bit longer term, though, I don't mind him, and he's got a lot of attacking threat. The issue is, of course, Leicester looked really poor in 17. If Leicester are going to revert back to the Leicester that we saw at the start of the season, they were conceding goals for fun. So it depends if we get the strong defence Leicester, or if we get the Leicester that just concede chances. I guess you might want to wait and see. This probably isn't a week to bring in Castagna. Let's see maybe how they do in 19, although it's a decent fixture to have against Fulham at home. I don't mind Castagna. I've got a very soft spot for Castagna, but I don't necessarily think that he's the best player to bring him. Yelena says you sound healthier. A little bit. I had a coughing attack before the start of the stream, but luckily, fingers crossed, we'll be fine for the actual stream itself. But yeah, I'm starting to get there. Is that a rum and coke? That is not a rum and coke. No, it's just a Coke. It's actually a Pepsi Max. Pepsi Max, no rum and coke. I'm not gonna drink on the stream. I'm gonna end up with my top off if one drink's enough for me to start stripping. Take a hit to get rid of Wilson. For whom then? I wouldn't take a hit to get rid of Wilson. No, I would play Andreas or someone from your bench. If you've got absolutely no one from your bench, then feel free to. I think the best Wilson replacements still Havertz and Mitrovic, maybe Martial, but probably Mitrovic and Havertz. I would say just about Mitrovic, then Havertz, then Martial. But if you don't want to take the risk with Mitrovic because he's on 4 yellows, I would just go for Havertz. If you can afford him, of course, because he's slightly more expensive. Joseph Sunny says, Havertz or Mitrovic for Martial? that was really good timing. I wouldn't sell Martial, so I would keep Martial for Wolves and Bournemouth. I don't understand why you would want to. Martial's just scored a goal, and Erik ten Hag has said really positive things about him in the presser, so I don't know why you would want to sell Martial. But if you do, I think Mitrovic is a better option than Havertz, but Mitrovic could be suspended, and if he misses a game, then I prefer Havertz. So it's up to you really out of Havertz and Mitrovic. MB says, hey Ross, you missed my first super chat. I really apologise for missing that. Thoughts on Foden to Zaha and Martial to Mitrovic? Thoughts on Foden to Zaha and Martial to Mitrovic? Also, thoughts on Tony? I'll be completely honest, and this is just my opinion. Feel free to do it anyway. I really hate those transfers. I don't think you want to sell Foden or Martial. I think both will probably start this week, or at least I hope Foden starts. Maybe he won't. Martial, I'm sure, will start. And they're 2 fine fixtures. And they're 2 players that on their day will score goals. I don't mind Zaha and I don't mind Mitrovic. Like I said, I think Mitrovic is arguably a better option than Martial. I don't think you need to make either of those transfers this week. I think roll a transfer, do some of those moves next week if Foden doesn't start and maybe Martial doesn't look great. But no, for me, MB, I don't think they're transfers I want to make. Is Almiron a necessity even for a -4? No, I don't think so. Did he get like 8 points in game week 17? Pretty much every other popular midfielder either scored that or beat him. I think Almiron, if you're looking at value, Almiron is arguably the best midfielder in FPL. I don't even think that's arguable. Almiron is the best midfielder in FPL for price. But let's say you haven't chosen him, like I haven't. Well, then price at the moment is irrelevant. I don't need the money. Me doing Rashford, Martinelli, or Foden to Almiron because Almiron is better value makes no sense because I don't need the extra money. If you are looking to replace someone like a Foden, then it makes sense to start thinking about maybe going for an Almiron instead, because maybe you can upgrade someone else to De Bruyne, for example. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think you would need to take a -4 for Almiron this week. My only worry is Leeds concede a lot of chances down their left flank. So if there is a week that Almiron could do well, Leeds at home looks like a really decent fixture to do it, because that's where Leeds concede all of their chances. So there is a slight worry there. I wouldn't do a -4 though, because as I always say, let's say instead of doing Almiron for a -4, you're playing Foden or Andreas. Let's say Foden or Andreas only get 2 points. Even if Almiron gets 6 points, you're only making the hit back. You need Almiron to get 8, 10 points to make it really worth it. And even then, you're only 2 or 3 points up and you've lost your transfer. So I don't think it's a necessity, no. But if you're looking to bring in a cheap midfielder, I was probably wrong on Almiron, for sure. I am slightly worried that Andreas is going to absolutely like mega haul on the bench. I'm looking at him first sub, and I'm looking at my 7 attackers, and I'm thinking there's very little chance that those 7 attackers don't feature in some regard. So Andreas is probably going to get stuck there first sub, and a lot of people are starting Andreas. So I am slightly worried, but I back my decision making, and I back the fact that I don't necessarily think he's much better than any of my other 7 attackers. Is Wilson going to be fit? I think there's a chance he's on the bench. I would be very shocked if he starts, but I think he's close to being back. But the thing is, I think they'll slowly ease him back in. I don't think he's going to play loads of minutes, because do you remember he came off at half-time I think it was against Southampton. I went to watch that game. And since then, it looks like he hasn't fully recovered, or at least he's picked up another illness. So I don't think they'll rush him back in. I think he'll probably be on the bench first and then maybe get a start after that, and then maybe only play 60 minutes. So I think you're fine selling Wilson, but we'll see. Saka out, Mount in. I don't like that this week. I don't mind that for the double, but I'm not sure I'd be selling Saka. I know Mount's got a great fixture this week, and I know Mount's got a double. I still think Saka's a slightly better option than Mount. Obviously, for me, if I'm doing like Foden to someone, it makes sense for me to go Foden to Mount. I wouldn't be selling Saka, especially if you might have value tied up in him as well. Play Castagna and roll, or James to Botman Cucurella. I would do James to Cucurella probably. I don't think I would play Castagna this week. I would be shocked if Leicester keep a clean sheet. Would you start Andreas or Solanke? I would start Andreas. I have Wilson and James. My microphone is so in the way. I have Wilson and James play White and Andreas Pereira roll. I answered that one. I would play White and Andreas Pereira and roll probably just. I think if you can roll this week and you're happy with the players that you're playing, like an Andreas or a Wyatt, I think it does make sense, but I equally think you can be aggressive. If you want to do James to Cucurella, do it. I'm still very tempted. The reason I say that is if I'm going to do the Cucurella move anyway, Cucurella against Forest is a better option than Ben White against Brighton. I think. But Arsenal are a really good defence, aren't they? Are you replacing James this week? A question on topic. At the moment, no. But like I said, I do think that the most likely transfer for me is going to be James to Cucurella. It makes no sense to make that move in 19. It makes sense to make the move this week if I'm going to do it. So I guess I need to think over the next, how long have we got? Hour and a half. I need to think, do I want to make that move? And if so, well, I might just do it. It's a tricky one. What do you guys think? I will carry on answering your questions. What do you think I should do? If you think let's say I'm 80% sure that I'm going to do James to Cucurella, do I just do it this week? I know I've already lost 0.1 million, that's fine. James to Cucurella this week, and then maybe like Foden to Mount next week, or maybe Martial to Havertz because I'd have enough money in the bank to do so. Frosty says we are losing 2-0 to Brighton, do the move. Andre says no. Okay, 2 of my moderators immediately disagreeing with each other. Do it. Start Andreas or Shaw. Oh, that's a really tricky one. I'd probably start Andreas ahead of Shaw if you can. I obviously can't because I have to have 3 defenders. Do it this week. Let's run a poll. Start a poll. Chat, all I'm going to say, honestly, is if this is 50-50, this poll, I'm not going to be best pleased with you, because every single week I ask you for one piece of help. I say, there's only one decision I need help with, chat. I'm going to run a poll. And then everyone in the poll just votes opposite to each other. It's always 50-50. So I would like this to be conclusive. I don't know what options to put. Cucurella this week. Play white and roll. Right, there we go. This better not be 50-50. That's all I'm saying. No, Alan, 51-49 isn't any better. I want this to be at least 60% in favour of one of the options. Okay? That's what I'm going to say. Frosty is always pessimistic and Arsenal always win. That's true. I agree. He says they're going to lose every single week. Completely ruins the legitimacy of what he's saying. By Matip or Shaw or Cucurella. I think Konate's back, isn't he? Which is a slight worry for minutes potentially. So I would say Shaw out of those options. I think Shaw is arguably the best option. Especially if there's apparently, I think Ben Crellin said there's a 70% chance that Manchester United double in 20 or 21. So Ben Crellin, who predicts all of the doubles, he thinks there's a very decent chance that Man United get a double at some point in the near future. If that's the case, we're laughing, those of us that have Manchester United double or triple up. And Luke Shaw becomes an even better option. Brighton is missing McAllister. Yep. Caicedo, Welbeck and Webster. Arsenal probably going to win. Yeah, Brighton are struggling a little bit with injuries and people missing. 55%. He didn't update it. So yeah, I know he said 55% originally. He did another tweet, Ben Crellin, and I think he said a 70% chance for Manchester United in game week 20. I think it was. Maybe 21. I know his first tweet said 55%. Tempted to start Andreas ahead of Martial. Thoughts? I think we agreed. Some people like Andreas ahead of Martial. I think the general consensus is Martial is a slightly better option, and I'm going to be starting Martial. I don't think that's an easy decision, though. And if you told me that you were starting Andreas ahead of Martial, that's absolutely fine with me. But for me, I'm personally going to be starting Martial. FPL Bella says, I'm rolling with white this week as I'm already exhausted from FPL being back. That's fair enough. And that's sort of kind of the perspective I have is when you're not sure, do nothing. That's often the best way to approach this. You're not sure who you want to bring in. Get a couple more days to think, a couple more days of information. And I think people really underestimate the power of 2 free transfers. And I think one of the main reasons that I've been able to do quite well this year is just keep rolling and you eventually will really need 2 free transfers. And I think especially going into game week 19, if I have 2 free transfers, I have the option of Cucurella, Mount, Havertz, Mitrovic. I have so many options available to me. And I think that as a result, maybe if I'm not 100% sure, maybe rolling is the best option. By the way, apologies if you can hear that squealing dog outside. I was going to say barking. It's not even barking. It's like squealing. So apologies if that's picking up on the mic. Why not Thiago Silva instead of Cucurella for James? I don't mind Thiago Silva. I was going to say his attacking threat is low, but I think Cucurella's is arguably just as low. Yeah, I don't mind Thiago Silva. I think someone said that he picked up a slight knock in the game against Bournemouth. So maybe there's a slight worry there. But yeah, I think Thiago Silva is arguably more nailed. Slightly lower goal threat, but probably similar. I just think I prefer Cucurella. Slightly more exciting pick playing at fullback. But yeah, you could go Thiago Silva if you wanted to. Sultan says, WTAB Perisic. I'm not down with the kids, so if you're going to use things like WTAB, I don't know what you're talking about. Perisic for Reece. I think that's what about Perisic for Reece. I would, so apologies. I would probably, I'm going to say no for me to the Spurs wingbacks, fullbacks. I just think there are better options because Spurs aren't defending well. And yes, Perisic and Doherty put some really nice attacking underlying statistics up. But if they're not keeping clean sheets, I don't think you want to rely on attacking returns. And I think that's the problem we're having with the likes of Trent and Robertson this season, is Robertson's putting up really good stats. Robertson's got 4 assists in the last like 6 or 7 weeks. He's getting loads of attacking returns, but you need to pair that with clean sheets for it to really be worth it. So I don't mind Perisic, but I would probably myself want to start to see Spurs keep some clean sheets first. Can I go Van Dijk for James? I don't mind Van Dijk, but again, they're not keeping clean sheets, Liverpool. I think when a team has been poor defensively all season, and even arguably towards the back end of last season, I don't mind sometimes taking a leap of faith. As I've said in FPL, sometimes you can't wait for things to happen, but I think I would want to see a slight uptick in defensive data and defensive form for Liverpool before moving for any of their defenders. But I don't mind Van Dijk if you want to make that move. Would you start Ben White or Shaw? I would definitely start Luke Shaw for me personally. I think there's a higher chance for a clean sheet, and Luke Shaw at left back is, in my opinion, a slightly more attacking threat than White at right back. But I think they're both fine options. I could see both conceding, to be fair. Cancelo or Robertson as a James replacement? I think... Really good question. What do you think, chat? Cancelo or Robertson if you don't own either? I think as long as you're not blocking... As long as you're not blocking a third City spot, or as long as you think there's not a City attacker that you might want in the future, I do think I still prefer Cancelo to Robertson, but Robertson's got much better attacking data. Robertson's actually got really, really good attacking data recently. So if you're looking more for a higher chance for clean sheet, I prefer Cancelo. If you're looking for better attacking threat, I prefer Robertson. But the issue is Cancelo doesn't have the attacking threat and Robertson doesn't have the high chance for clean sheet at the moment. So I don't think either of them have both. Maybe at the moment Robertson, but I think I would go Cancelo myself. And Chisel Planet has just gifted another Rap Tier membership. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. Going to take a quick drink. Zinchenko for James? Yeah, I like Zinchenko, but suffered with injuries quite a bit recently. Maybe want to see him get a run of games first, but at 5 million, I do really like Zinchenko. When we were building our Game Week 17 teams, I was saying that I actually really like Zinchenko as an option. At the time, we didn't know how fit he was, but he obviously got minutes in Game Week 17. It just depends, I guess, how quickly they ease him in. And also, do you need him this week? If you need him desperately this week, are you confident that he's going to get 60 minutes? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I would maybe... I think maybe Zinchenko's one to wait a couple more weeks, personally. Omri says, I'm pretty set on starting Chalobah, Trippier, of course a must now for third defender slot. Would you start Gabriel or White? And would you start Wilson or Martinelli? Gabriel or White, I would definitely start Gabriel. Gabriel's got ridiculous XG. I think White will get more opportunities for assists, but Gabriel tends to get those clear-cut chances and White doesn't necessarily get them. So the statistics would suggest starting Gabriel. Would you start Wilson or Martinelli? I would start Martinelli. And yeah, I think Andreas is fine to start against Southampton, Omri. But yeah, I would lean Martinelli over Wilson. If Wilson was fit, I'd prefer Wilson, but there's a good chance Wilson's on the bench. Hayden says, I'm on Trippier, Walker, White, Dunk, James for Game Week 18. Would you hold? Yeah, I would hold and play Trippier, Walker and White with Dunk first sub. And if Walker doesn't feature, then Dunk comes off the bench. Yeah, I think you're fine to roll or to hold there. But again, if you want to make the move this week and you want to be a little bit aggressive, I think that's fine as well. Jordan says, what do you reckon on Botman for James? Again, I really like Botman. He's not got a great deal of attacking threat, and you don't want to block... If you've already got Almiron and Trippier, I don't think you want to go for Botman because it blocks Wilson, and it blocks Isak in the future. So I don't mind Botman, but just maybe be careful of blocking that third Newcastle spot. If you're pretty confident you won't want Wilson and you won't want Isak, then I think you're absolutely fine. But I would just be a little bit cautious about blocking that third Newcastle spot because they look absolutely amazing at the moment. Oh my God, that squeaky chair. Going to be the death of me. Law says, it seems harsh that price drops early in the season cripple you. You get punished for being patient. What are your thoughts? Not necessarily. So I've only made one early transfer this season. One. Every other set of transfers or transfer I've made on deadline day, or at least most of them actually on the deadline stream. But I've obviously picked the right players at the right point. So I think you've got two ways to build up team value. You make really, really early moves on players that you think will rise in price and sell players that might fall in price. Or you get lucky enough to pick players that rise in price anyway. So I was lucky that I owned Trippier since the start of the season, and Martinelli and Haaland. I brought in Pascal Gross and sold him for £0.2 million profit. So you can either make early moves or own players that rise in price, and you don't have to worry about making early moves. But yeah, I do agree that if you get it wrong, or if it's your first season, you have a poor season and you don't make early moves, and as you say, you're a patient manager, it does feel a little bit like you're getting punished, I agree. Which isn't ideal. Sherashar says, Ross, Martial versus Kulusevski. Who to bench, please? I've got Martinelli, Almiron, KDB, Rashi, Nunes, Haaland as well. What do you think? I would say, firstly, you've probably picked too many decent attackers because you've got a benching headache every week. But this week, I would probably bench. I'd probably bench Martial. Got the lowest expected minutes, maybe Martinelli. It would be one of Martinelli or Martial for me. Probably Martial. Just because Martinelli, if Saka does come off, Martinelli could be on pens. And also he gets, like I said, the extra point for a clean sheet and the extra point for a goal. And Martial's expected minutes are quite low, probably only 60 to 70 minutes. So I'd probably bench Martial, but that's not an easy decision to make. Erdegaard or Martinelli? I think the Arsenal attackers at the moment, for me, it's still Saka at the top if you ignore Price. But taking Price into account, I would argue Erdegaard might be the best option at the moment. He's genuinely putting up really good data. He's the captain. He's extremely nailed. And he's playing well, passing the eye test too, if that's something that's important to you. So I would argue, at his price, if you're looking at value, Erdegaard genuinely might be the best option. So I would maybe favour Erdegaard to Martinelli at the moment. Would you sell Martial for Mitrovic? Again, I'm personally not a massive fan of that. I don't mind it. I wouldn't say no to that. But for me, I'm not going to do it. I think Martial against Wolves and Bournemouth is absolutely fine. Maybe I do sell Martial for Mitrovic next week. But it's not just the suspension tightrope. It's also that Martial puts up good data and has 2 really good fixtures. So I feel like there are better players to sell and better players to buy than someone on 4 yellows and selling someone that's starting number 9 for Manchester United. Andreas or Trossard to start? Yeah, we spoke about this earlier in the stream. Andreas versus Trossard is like a 50-50 decision. I would probably back just about Andreas just because of the fixture. But Trossard is a better attacker, in my opinion, in FPL and slightly more likely to score a goal. So it's a tricky one. Yeah, I did get my 60% on the poll. So at the moment, 61% of you think I should play Ben White and roll the transfer, and 39% of you think I should buy Cucurella this week. So conclusively, at the moment, in favour of me being patient and rolling, which is kind of the approach I've had this season. Thanks, Raptor. You're welcome, Harry. Hopefully I've helped with some pieces of advice throughout this stream. Bench one of Darwin, Martial, Almiron, or Foden. Very tricky. I would probably bench Martial there. Just about Martial. Start Shaw or Foden. Start both and bench Martial, please answer. I would start Foden over Shaw, and I'd probably bench those two. Probably Shaw and Martial, but again, that seems crazy benching both of those. I've just seen some of Harry's viewers have joined. If you just come from FPL Harry stream, firstly, thank you very much, FPL Harry. Secondly, welcome. Hopefully you enjoy the stream. Would you start Ben White or Botman? I would start... If you've not already covered the Arsenal defence, maybe you start Ben White just to cover the Arsenal defence because they are quite highly owned. But I'd maybe just about prefer Botman's fixture. The thing is, I do expect Leeds to score. I don't think this is a great fixture for a clean sheet. I think both will probably concede, but maybe I'd lean Ben White ahead of Botman. Trossard or Martial? I would lean Martial. Kane or Mitrovic? I don't know what the question is there. They're such different players. If it's who to start, I would always say Kane, but I would arguably I wouldn't want to bench either of them. If you're saying who to buy, then it very much depends on how you're getting that money and what else you would do with the money. It's a difficult question to answer without knowing. Who to bench, Nketiah or Andreas? I would play Nketiah myself. Thinking of giving Salah the armband, what are your thoughts? I don't mind it. I think it's a good fixture, but Salah still doesn't look quite at it. Liverpool still don't look quite at it. And I think Haaland will start, and he's playing at home, and he's scored in pretty much every game. So whilst I do think his expected minutes are a little bit lower this week than usual, I still don't see a massive reason to go against Haaland. Did my redirect work? It said it did, Harry, but the viewers didn't change. So I don't know. I don't know how many people you had watching live, but the viewers went up like 30. So it said that you've had a redirect from Harry. It come up as a notification, but the viewer chain didn't change too much. I don't know if you like shared it between streamers or whatever, but yeah, so it said it worked, but I didn't see a massive change. But yeah, we can discuss it after. But thank you very much for sending your viewers across, Harry. I appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoy your evening. How are your cups? What do you mean my cups? What does that mean? Start Laporte or Gabriel? I'd start Laporte. I think Laporte will start this week. Start Havertz or Martial. Havertz. What are your thoughts on Gakpo in future game weeks? Really nice price. So if you haven't seen, Gakpo's coming in as an £8 million midfielder. So Gakpo at 8 million could offer a really nice alternative to the likes of Saka, Foden, Kulusevski, Bowen at that price. For now, he's a wait and see. We don't know if he's going to get regular minutes. As soon as Jota and Diaz are back, I don't like Gakpo. I probably don't like Darwin as well, as soon as those are back. But for the time being, whilst Firmino, Jota and Diaz are out, if Gakpo can get into that starting 11 quickly, he could offer a really nice option. And we've seen his stats in the Eredivisie have been absolutely amazing in the past. So I really like Gakpo, but probably a wait and see for the next few weeks. If Foden's benched this week, are you looking to sell? Yes. If Foden's benched this week, I'll probably sell him for Mount. Start Martinelli or Andreas. I'm leaning Martinelli still for that decision. I don't think I've changed my opinion on that. I just about prefer Martinelli. But I mean, you can look at my team. There's no point asking me who you would start out of Martial Andreas or Martinelli Andreas, because as you can see, Andreas is first sub. So for me, I prefer starting Martinelli, Foden, Martial, Rashford to Andreas. Would you buy Havertz and sell Martial this week or roll? I do really like Havertz, and I think he's got a good chance of scoring. I still don't think that's a transfer you need to make this week. So I would roll and then assess if you want to do that next week. Would you roll and play Pero, Cancelo, Trippier, or move James to Cucurella as Piliqueta? I'd probably play Pero. I know it's not a great. We expect Fulham to score. Like Fulham have scored in every home game this season, but I still think Pero's fine. He's a relatively attacking threat. He takes shots, and it's an okay fixture. So I would probably roll Tom. But yeah, if you want to get aggressive and do James Cucurella as Piliqueta, like that's fine. I like rolling. And I like having 2 free transfers in FPL. That's the way I play FPL. But I don't want it to come across as that's always optimal. If Cucurella gets a 15-pointer this week, then rolling for me was absolutely not optimal. So if you think the player that you're bringing in is going to do well this week, go for it. I'm still tempted. I'm still tempted to do James Cucurella. I would say at the moment, I am probably 60-40 in favour of playing Ben White and keeping James on the bench. But like I said, there's such a strong chance that I do James Cucurella anyway for the double game week. It makes sense to probably do it this week. So I'm probably 60-40 at the moment to not making the move, but I could definitely do James Cucurella. What about Azpilicueta? I don't mind Azpilicueta. We spoke about Azpilicueta a little bit. I just think he's very dependent on it being a back 4. If it switches to a back 5, I don't think he's great for that. And also, someone posted on Twitter, I'll never remember who it was, they posted Azpilicueta's minutes last time Reece James was injured, and he basically starts 1, bench 1, start 1, bench 1. So I don't think Azpilicueta starts all of these games. Maybe Cucurella doesn't either. They've got Chilwell. They're looking to sign a left centre-back. They could play like Sterling at left wing-back if they switch to a 5-back. We've seen Potter do random things like that in the past. But I think Cucurella is slightly more nailed than Azpilicueta. I could be completely wrong there. I could be completely wrong. That's my opinion of it. Hey, Raptor, you've missed my comment. I do apologise. Ask again. Hey, Ross, Shaw or Cucurella for James? Cucurella's got a confirmed double, but I would argue that Shaw's a slightly better option. Slightly more nailed, cheaper, and a possible double himself, and better underlying data than Cucurella. Cucurella's underlying data is quite poor. Chilwell is injured, mate. As far as I know, Chilwell's back in some kind of training, isn't he? I don't know if he's back in full training, but he's back soon. Hi, Ross. Would you play Cucurella or White? I would definitely play Cucurella. I'm tempted to do James Cucurella to play ahead of White. I think there's a very reasonable chance that Arsenal concede. If it was at home, if it was Brighton at home at the Emirates, I would probably just play White. It's the fact that it's at the Amex. I don't like their chances of keeping a clean sheet. The thing is with Arsenal, though, Arsenal dominate possession so well. They hold on to the ball so well that they've always got a good chance for a clean sheet. I think any team that dominate possession, I think that's why City is so good defensively. City's defenders aren't great. If you look at, like, I'm not saying they're bad, but Stones, Akanji, Diaz, they're fine. Cancelo, Walker, they're a decent defence. I think there are better defenders in the Premier League, though. They just keep the ball so well that they very rarely lose it. And when they lose it, they press quite well. And Arsenal are very similar, right? Arteta's come from City, so I think he's deployed a very, very similar system. So I think Arsenal always have a decent chance for a clean sheet, but I do really like the idea of Cucurella against Forest. Yeah, exactly. Aaron's nailed it, though. They barely get tested, and that goes for Arsenal and City. When a team keeps the ball 70% of the time, they're not going to be tested very often. You can't reject your poll results now, wisdom of the crowd, Matt says. That's true. I did ask in the poll, and you have given me a definitive answer. Maybe I'll go against you anyway. That will show you, chat. That will show you. Would you consider James to Walker? No, I wouldn't consider Walker personally. Hello, Ross. Start Solanke or Andreas Pereira. I would start Andreas Pereira. Double up on the Chelsea defence for the double game week. Yeah, I really like that. That's what I'm considering. I would have Kepa and Cucurella, and then I'd maybe be looking to bring in either Mount or Havertz for Foden or Martial. Liam has been a member for 10 months. Thank you very much, Liam. I appreciate you. Bilal says, hello, Mr. Raptor. Shall I transfer out Callum Wilson out for Mitrovic or Havertz? I think they're both fine. I'd probably lean just Mitrovic if you're happy taking the risk with the 4 yellows. If you don't want to take that risk, I think Havertz is absolutely fine. I've answered all of those. Cool. I think I'm up to date. Is there any information if Cancelo will play against Everton? There's not. But after his cameo, the fact that he came on in Game Week 17 tells me that he's fit enough to play. And they looked so much better immediately when he came on. I know they conceded, but I think they just look a better team with him on the pitch. I would be very shocked if Cancelo doesn't start. I don't know for a fact. There was no reason he was out. I think it was just a little lack of match fitness. Because I think he only started the first game in the World Cup, if I'm right. So maybe he's just lacking a bit of match fitness. But yeah, I would expect Cancelo to start in 18. I wouldn't be selling Cancelo myself. I definitely wouldn't be benching him either. I would start and keep Cancelo. I'm very jealous of people that own Cancelo. I've got Edison instead. I made that decision. I'm happy I made the decision, but I am still jealous of Cancelo owners. Would you hold Bruno Fernandes or sell to get Mitrovic? I'd hold Bruno Fernandes. Good fixture. Got good next 2 fixtures against Wolves and Bournemouth. 1 hour, 10 minutes and the camera hasn't frozen. I was literally just thinking that. It's going to freeze any second. That's why I keep looking over here to make sure my face isn't frozen. What to do with Walker if you own him? I would see what happens in this week. If he's benched again, I would worry. But again, this isn't to be smug or to say like, I'm always right. I've been saying for weeks that Walker isn't nailed. If you've been listening, Stones can play right back. Ake can play left back with Cancelo at right back. They've got Lewis now. To some extent, Akanji or Diaz could fill in at right back. They've got enough options that Walker doesn't need to play every game. He doesn't even need to play most. They can really rotate. And I think they do tend to favour Lewis or Cancelo. And I think Stones is really good against teams that are good in the air as well. Stones is absolutely fine at right back with Cancelo at left back. Because what they do is one of the fullbacks tucks into almost like a back three, and then Cancelo will join the midfield. So Stones and Walker are equally good in that right back position. So yeah, you could sell Walker, but I don't think you need to this week because I think there's a good chance that he starts this one. But again, they could just start Lewis or Stones again. They could start Stones at right back, Cancelo left back, and then Akanji and Ake or Akanji and Laporte at centre back. If I had to predict, I think the back 4 for City will be Cancelo, Laporte, Akanji, Stones. I think Walker might be benched again, but I've seen a lot of people predict that Walker starts at right back and Stones is at centre back. I think either way, I expect Stones to start. Akanji probably starts as well. And I just think Laporte needs a start. It's difficult. They've got a lot of players that can play in a lot of positions along that back line. Pretty much all of City's defenders can play most of the positions along the back line, or at least 2 of them. And it makes it very tricky to try and predict their starting 11. Luke Brady says, would you consider Darwin captain? I can feel a hat-trick and it's about time he converts these chances. I don't mind Darwin captain. I think this is a decent week to captain him, but we have been saying that all season that he's going to convert these chances and he still hasn't. And it could be another week of frustration. So if you are willing to be frustrated, I have absolutely no issues with it. But I don't think you can complain if he misses big chances. We know he has that in his locker to have loads of big chances and miss them. So I think it depends on who you are as a person. If you're patient, if you're not going to get frustrated by that, then yeah, I don't mind that at all. But if you're someone that's going to get angry at that, then maybe don't bother. KDB to Salah this week or wait? Thank you for your tips. I would wait. KDB's got two double game weeks coming up. We don't know if Liverpool are going to have a double or not. They might have a double in 21. I would keep KDB, personally. And you're welcome. Neil says, Tony to Mitrovic inclined to roll and assess next week. I don't think you need to do Tony to Mitrovic this week. I agree. Inclined to roll and assess next week would be my perspective. I could definitely see Tony scoring against West Ham. West Ham are decent defensively. Their underlying data is much better than the amount of goals they've conceded. But Tony's Tony. Tony looks like a man trying to prove a point before he gets his ban. So, yeah, I would keep Tony for another week, probably. Yes, a lot of people saying that the Liverpool team is unchanged. There are a few leaks going around that the Liverpool team is unchanged, but I don't think anyone really cares or needs that information. We know that it's almost definite that Núñez and Salah will start, and Robertson's probably going to start along with Trent too. So I think we're fairly comfortable with that. But yeah, apparently it's an unchanged 11 for Liverpool. There's also suggestions that Tielemans doesn't start for Leicester, which obviously makes them a slightly poorer team. Thoughts on Foden? I wouldn't be bringing him in, but I don't think you necessarily need to sell him. I think we can give him game week 18, give him Everton at home, and then maybe look to replace after that. Which Fulham defender would you bring in? Probably Diop, if I had to bring in a Fulham defender. I like Diop. Could bring in Tim Ream if you want, but Tim Ream's just scored his like 5th goal in his career or something, or 5th goal in the last like 300 games. It's something ridiculous. Zach says, should I get White as a James replacement? I think the best generic James replacements, but again, it's very team dependent, but let's just say I'm giving out generic advice. It is probably an Arsenal defender, White, Gabriel. It's Luke Shaw, Botman, Dunk, or Cucurella. I know that's 5, but you choose based on your budget and what you're looking for. Dunk, Arsenal defender, Botman, Shaw, Cucurella. 5. I think they're the 5 best options. Start Andreas or White. I would start Andreas ahead of White. Wilson to Mitrovic, play Dunk or James to Shaw this week. Probably James to Shaw makes most sense. But I do like the idea of getting Mitro in for Southampton at home, so it's a tricky one. White or Trossard? Oh God, that's moving quickly. White or Trossard to start? Trossard probably. I do think Arsenal will probably concede, which is one of the reasons I'm tempted to do Cucurella this week and bench White. It's a tricky one. The only thing that's maybe stopping me from doing that is less so Cucurella, more so the fact that Ben White was actually relatively attacking. And I do think that they will dominate this game again because they are the best team in the league at the moment, arguably. Well, not arguably, they're top of the league. White got forward a hell of a lot. And if he's got attacking threat, as well as the opportunity for a clean sheet, White's actually a slightly better option than I thought. When I picked White, it was almost like a safety pick to have an Arsenal defender, but he actually got forward a decent amount. Ødegaard or Andreas, I'd start Ødegaard. Hey man, if you could afford it, James to Robertson, think he comes good. I could afford it in 2 moves, but yeah, if you can afford it in 1 move, maybe. Yeah, I don't mind Robertson. I suppose my only concern with Robertson is they're still not defending great, Liverpool. They could have easily conceded 2 in game week 17, and he's a lot of money, and that might limit you for making future attacking transfers. And I do think at the moment, it's not always the way in FPL, but at the moment, the value is in the forwards and midfielders. The value is not in the defence. And by the value, I mean the more expensive players that you want to bring in are going to be in midfield and attack. I don't think you're going to want to bring in many expensive defenders at the moment. Hello, Ross. Start Martinelli / Almiron. I would probably lean Almiron. I think it's a better fixture for Almiron. I have Patterson as a sub, so isn't James a priority out? Yeah, if you've got Patterson or Bueno or you're forced to start a play you don't want to, then sell James. Even if you've got someone like a White, like you can sell James. You'll see a lot of content creators, myself included, encourage rolling and having 2 free transfers, and that is my perspective on it. But that doesn't mean that you have to roll. It doesn't mean that you can't be slightly more aggressive and slightly more proactive and bring in someone to replace James this week. Fabian Schär over Ben White. If it's who to start, I don't mind starting Fabian Schär. I probably prefer to bring in Ben White to Fabian Schär. Yeah, so Frosty said there's no way I was rolling with Patterson and Bueno on the bench. Exactly. If you own both them against City and Manchester United, you're going to need to bring in a third defender. Absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah, Zach says the thing is with Cucurella, Chilwell's back in training. I don't know if he's back in full training, but yeah, he's close. Chilwell's close to being fit. The thing is with Chilwell, he's going to be eased in very slowly. And even when he's fully fit, he's not the first choice left back, I don't think. I think Cucurella is still first choice. So I think Cucurella is probably fine. Oh, there's the camera gone. That lasted a while today. I think Cucurella is probably fine for at least the next maybe, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, game weeks, maybe 5-6. But I think the fixtures you want Cucurella for is you're going to want him for Nottingham Forest, and you're going to want him for the double game week. Yes, it would be nice to have him as an option after that, but if you had to sell him after those 3 games, I don't think that's a huge issue. The other thing that I like about Cuckoo as an option, Cucurella, is that there's a reasonable gap between their 2 Premier League games in the double game week. So I don't think it's out of question at all that some of the popular Chelsea assets will start both games in the double game week. What percentage of the normal day do you spend thinking about FPL, and what do you think about the people that get submerged too much? We'll maybe discuss that post-deadline, but I spend far too long, probably like 8 to 10 hours a day thinking or engaging with FPL and all of that stuff. So, yeah. Hey, Ross, would you play Andreas or sub out James for sure and bench Andreas? I'd just play Andreas. I think you're fine playing Andreas. I think Andreas is a really good option this week. I have no issues with playing him if you want to roll. Obviously, like I said, if you want to make the move this week, though, I don't hate that at all. Let's see if that's long enough for the camera. Game week 19 question, but do you drop Saka or Martinelli for Andreas? The answer is no to that. Definitely not. Yeah, I know you can't see me. I'm just resetting my camera. Oh, it needs longer again. It's been an absolute nightmare. Yeah, the camera's gone. That's fine. Thanks for the live stream. Keep posting. I will. Would you start Kepa or Edison? At the moment, I'm starting Edison just because it's a home fixture, but you could definitely justify starting Kepa against Nottingham Forest. Zach, can you stop asking the same question over and over, please? If you just ask the question once. I trust Ross more than I trust myself for advice. I wouldn't trust me more than you trust yourself. I would trust yourself the most. Definitely. I can see Salah scoring big this week. I would absolutely love that if Salah scores big this week. I think I really would love it if Darwin scores big as well. I need both of my Liverpool attackers that I've invested loads of money in to go big tonight. They play tonight, right? So that would be very useful. Matt says, welcome to Rap Tier 1. Thank you very much, Matt, for becoming a Rap Tier 1 member. I do appreciate you very much. And Darshill's been a member for 14 months. Says, thanks for the content throughout and good luck for 2023. Same to you, my man. Thank you for being a member for all that time. I do appreciate the support. Would you start Foden over KDB? Absolutely not. With the risk of him being benched, I would start KDB. There you go, I'm back. Salah does well against Villa. Yeah, he did well against Villa for sure. I'm thinking back to last season. Do you remember last season what happened when Salah played Leicester? That was away, but he missed a penalty and got 0 points. The reason I remember that so clearly is I didn't own Salah that week and everyone else owned Salah. So that's why I remember so clearly Salah missing the pen and getting a 0 pointer. Start Andreas or Che Adams? Probably Andreas. Because it's at home. If it was at St Mary's, then maybe I would. It's not a great home stadium, but I would maybe back the home fixture on Che Adams there. But yeah, I'd say Andreas because it's at home. Is Kulusevski a good shout? Yeah, I think Kulusevski's a fine shout. I think I prefer Saka and I prefer Mount. But yeah, I think he's a good shout. Andre says 14 months here too. Good luck everybody and a wonderful and happy new year to all of you. I appreciate all of your help so much, my man. Thank you for being here and moderating both Discord and YouTube too. Andreas or Wilson? I've said start Andreas just because there's a chance Wilson's on the bench and makes a cameo. If I knew that Wilson would start, I prefer Wilson. But yeah, I'm going to say Andreas just because we know he's going to play 80 to 90 minutes. Would you take a hit for Havertz? No. Ødegaard or Martinelli? At the moment, Ødegaard. Ødegaard looks like the Arsenal asset to own. I would definitely say at the moment, based on form, Ødegaard. But long term, I do think Martinelli's a greater goal threat. But he's just looked a little bit off it. I think someone posted, it might have been Marcus last week, Martinelli's underlying data since game week 12 is something like 0.19 expected goal involvement. So Martinelli's had a significant drop-off in his data, but we've seen for the last 2 seasons or so, Martinelli does put up consistently good data and he is a massive goal threat. And we saw him score again in game week 17. I was so close to Ødegaard. Darshiel says, I'll be honest, I didn't consider Ødegaard at all. I will hold my hands up. I wasn't at all interested in Ødegaard, but he's continued what we saw pre-World Cup. So you need to, like I said, you need to update your preconceptions and change them. And he looks like a really good option now. Frosty says, don't buy Havertz this week. He was starting alternate games pre-World Cup. Fair enough. I think Havertz will start, but there you go. There's a warning from someone else that Havertz might not start this week. I think he will. I think he's been too good to not start. I think it would be completely backward to punish him by rotating him. I think pre-World Cup he was still playing well, but he wasn't as good as he has been in the last couple of games. So I think he'll start. But yeah, maybe it isn't. Maybe the week to buy Havertz is for the double. Is Thiago Silva a good shout? Yeah, I'm not a Chelsea fan myself. If there are any Chelsea fans in the chat that want to help. I think Thiago Silva's now, but like I said, if he picked up a knock against Bournemouth, he is quite old, and they have other centre-backs they can play, but Thiago Silva is relatively nailed when he's fit, so maybe he's a fine option. Who's the best captain out of Kane, Foden, and Darwin? I think Darwin. I think I would go Darwin there. If Foden starts, I like Foden, but we don't know he's going to start. And Kane's fine, but yeah, maybe I would go Darwin. I like Kane because he's on penalties. And as I always say, if you can captain a penalty taker, I always prefer that. That's why I'm looking at maybe bringing in, if Havertz is on pens, or maybe Mitrovic for the double, because I like captaining the penalty taker. But I think I like Darwin out of those 3 options. If you have no Liverpool player in the squad, is getting Salah for KDB a priority? No, I'd keep KDB. I don't think you should look at it as I've got no Liverpool players, let me sell KDB for Salah. I think you should look at it, do you prefer KDB or do you prefer Salah? And is it worth a transfer? Because you might slightly prefer Salah, but if you're not captaining that player, it might not be worth the transfer or worth a hit. So I think whoever you've got out of KDB and Salah, you just keep them for the time being. KDB was very unlucky to walk away with 2 points. I think he deserved at least 2 assists in game week 17. And I think on another day, Haaland missed a couple of chances that KDB fed through to him. I think on another day, he scores 1 or 2 of those. KDB, even with a single assist, KDB picks up bonus points. If KDB walks away with an 8 or 9 pointer in game week 17, I don't think people are questioning selling him for Salah. But yeah, I chose Salah because I think he's a greater goal threat. And I had a feeling he would do relatively well over the next few. And fingers crossed he does. Which Man City defender is the most nailed apart from Cancelo? I don't think any of them are, but it looks like Akanji at the moment is the most nailed. But I said last week that I thought Laporte would be very nailed, and he hasn't been. So you've not answered my question, Cancelo or Shaw. It's not really a question. The answer is 5 million % Cancelo every week, any week. I'm not saying he will outscore Shaw every week. For example, he didn't in game week 17. But the decision before the deadline for me will always be Cancelo ahead of Shaw. But they're very different prices. If you're asking like who to buy, then you need to take into account price. People are saying John Stones, yeah, but you could see Walker at right back with Akanji and Laporte centre back. So I think Akanji he's started something like 12 or 13 games in a row in the Premier League. So maybe Akanji. But that might mean that he's due a rest. I don't know. This is why I went for Edison. Because if I'm not going for Cancelo, the only player that I'm confident starts most games or all games is Edison. And if he doesn't, I've got Kepa on the bench, which I'd be perfectly happy with. Zaha to Martinelli for a hit. No, I'd keep Zaha. Shaw or Cucurella. I think they are probably the best two options to replace James. Depends if you want to target the 19 double or you want a slightly long-term option. I think if you're looking for a longer-term option, you want to save a little bit of money, Shaw is the better long-term option, I think. Because I think longer-term, Cucurella could become more of a rotation risk. As long as Shaw doesn't put in any absolute stinkers, which he could do, Shaw is definitely first choice ahead of Malacia. So we've got about 45 minutes to the deadline, guys, so plenty of time, but you might want to start thinking about locking in your teams and locking in the players that you want. Make sure you got your bench order sorted. Make sure you thought about vice captaincy and captaincy. You are wanting 2 transfers for next week. You will get a good idea of double game weeks. Yeah, I don't think we'll get a good idea of any future doubles because the deadline's on Monday for Game Week 19, I think. Was it Tuesday? Monday, I think. So we're not going to get any news over the weekend. So I don't think 2 free transfers will be massively useful, but they could. And the thing is, we could get injuries in Game Week 18. If, for example, one of like Rashford, Darwin, Martial, Salah, if any of those get injured that I'm not planning on selling, if any of them get injured in Game Week 18, I'll be delighted that I kept 2 free transfers. Because it might be that I can do something really fun with my team. Maybe like, let's say Martinelli gets injured. Maybe I could downgrade like James to Botman and Martinelli up to Mount. Does that make sense? So I do want Cucurella this week, but 2 free transfers to deal with any injuries, maybe some potential double game week news. And other than that, 2 free transfers is always useful. If I only use 1 in 19, I roll forward another one to game week 20. So I don't think it's ever an issue having 2 free transfers. For vice captaincy, would you go Nunes over Rashford? Sounds like you would. Oh, definitely, yeah. I would definitely vice captain Darwin ahead of Rashford. I just think the fixture's much better. Like next week, I think Rashford's arguably a slightly better captaincy option. Bournemouth at home is a really nice fixture. I think Wolves always fine. Like I said, Wolves conceded 1.74 XG to Everton, but I don't think it's a fixture that you would really want to captain Rashford or Martial in. If you are enjoying today's stream, please do drop a like. We're closing in on 1,000 likes on the stream, so please drop a like. Make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. If you've not yet subscribed, we are kind of fast approaching 56,000. So if you're enjoying today's stream and you haven't yet subscribed, please do consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate that. Are we selling Foden if he doesn't start? Yeah, I probably am. To be honest, if Foden starts and looks a bit off it, maybe only gets 60 minutes, I might sell him for Mount anyway. I think Foden to Mount and captain in Mount in Game Week 19 sounds quite appealing to me. So that there is a chance that I just sell Foden anyway. But yeah, if Foden's benched against Everton, I'm not bothering with that. He's got Chelsea in Game Week 19. I don't really want to play him anyway. I'd probably bench him for Andreas. I'd probably sell Mount probably sell Foden for Mount, captain Mount. The only issue is then I have to bring Andreas in for another player, but I would probably bring Andreas in for Martinelli because I think it's Arsenal against Newcastle. So I'll work it all out and I'll discuss it in my Game Week 19 team selection. But yeah, Foden is on thin ice for sure. I can't be bothered to have an £8.3 million midfielder, especially when we want so many other midfielders. Like there are so many midfielders I want. Saka, Mount in particular, and then even cheaper ones like Almiron. And Ødegaard potentially. I don't really. It doesn't make sense to keep him if he's not starting regularly. Omri says, I know you're a Manchester United fan. I am indeed. I'm a Liverpool fan. Still much love towards you. No worries on that. Okay. I've been playing 3 seasons. Still not able to transfer in any United or Everton players. What are your thoughts on that? I think that's fine. If you enjoy the game more by not owning Manchester United or Everton players, then don't own them. If you're asking if I think that's a good move, absolutely not. I think the optimal way to play FPL is to completely forget loyalties. I don't think you want to be overly optimistic about your players, and I don't think you want to be overly pessimistic. For example, I very rarely own Manchester United players. That isn't pessimism. That's because we've just not been very good recently. But now that we are playing well and we've got good fixtures, I'll bring in 3 of them. I captained... Do you know what? That's a really good week to show you, actually, to answer that question very, very quickly. My best week this season, if we get there, was Game Week 9, right? When I went up to 578th in the world. That was my big, big week. I had Foden for his hat-trick against Manchester United, right? He got 19 points. And I captained Haaland for his hat-trick and assist, 23 points to get me 46 points. If I had avoided owning rival teams, I would have lost out on over 60 points there. It's just, it makes absolutely no sense to let your loyalties affect the way you play FPL. And hopefully that's a decent example of that. So if it helps you to enjoy the game more, then go for it. But I would try and think about ways that you can maybe bring in Everton players. Probably aren't an issue, but Manchester United, if we continue playing the way we are, you probably need to start owning Manchester United players. Leno, Pope, or Kepa? Kepa. In Game Week 19, I may bring in Andreas for Almiron and Mount for Trossard, still rolling James. I don't mind that, Dave. I'm not sure about Andreas in for Almiron. I think Mount in for Trossard's fine. I just think Almiron's great. Like I regret not picking Almiron. I really do. I think I should have put Almiron in probably instead of Martial in a 3-5-2. I regret not having Almiron. I don't know that I would sell Almiron, even though Andreas has the double game week. Because I think you'll want Almiron back. And then that's 2 transfers to do that. So just under 45 minutes till the deadline, guys. Hopefully you are enjoying today's stream. Good evening. Is Cancelo essential to keep? I don't think anyone's essential in this game apart from Haaland, who I never like using that term, but he is essential. If you want to do well in FPL, you have to own Haaland. Outside of that, I don't think anyone is essential in the game this year, which is nice. It's a nice change. In the past, like Trent and Salah have been essential. It's absolutely, they're not. No one is at the moment. But if you're asking me if you think you should keep Cancelo, yes, I do. I would strongly recommend keeping Cancelo. Sorry for being fidgety. My back is caving in on me. Yeah, I would want Almiron back. Yeah, exactly, Dave. So that's 2 transfers to drop one of the best players in the game at the moment, to bring in Andreas for an okay double, which includes a game against Chelsea. It's not for me, personally. But if Andreas does well, then you'll probably regret not making the move, I guess. Would you start Wilson or Andreas? I would start Andreas because I think there's a chance Wilson's on the bench. If in the next 45 minutes we get any news, we won't, that Wilson's fit enough to start, then I would prefer Wilson. Hey Ross, Martial or Havertz? I think Martial's slightly more nailed, but Havertz has the double and is arguably playing slightly better. So it's up to you. I'd probably just lean Havertz, but I have seen a few people suggest that maybe Aubameyang gets a nod, or maybe like Sterling in the false 9. Havertz I don't think is quite as nailed as Martial. But the thing is with Martial, I think he's nailed on to start. He's definitely not nailed on for 90 minutes. So it's a tricky one. I would lean Havertz, but I think Mitrovic is arguably a better option than both. Is Foden starting? I have no idea. I hope so. But we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It might be that Foden's got a disciplinary issue. It might be that he's really fatigued, and the physiotherapist, which does happen, the physiotherapist and sports scientist might be suggesting that Foden isn't well enough to play. He's not match fit. It might be that Pep's saving him for the trickier fixtures coming up. We don't know what's going on. So we can predict, but I don't think it makes much sense. It's not helping anyone. My answer is I hope Foden starts. Hey Ross, do you think kebab or fish and chips is a better option this week? It's Friday fish and chips. I'm actually getting an Indian. Sadly, my family at this moment, maybe at 6, my family whilst I'm doing this deadline stream are going to get an Indian. All of them over at my sister's, and I'll be streaming, so I'll have to heat that up afterwards. The things I do for you guys watching this, I miss out on an Indian, or I have to delay the Indian takeaway to stream. There we go. I wouldn't have it any other way. Don't worry, I wouldn't have it any other way. Jack asks, selling James, can you rank Azpilicueta, Shaw, Silva, Cucurella? Yes, I can. Shaw, Cucurella, Silva, Azpilicueta. I've put Azpilicueta 4th. I expect him to start this week. It's a great fixture, and he does have an assist in him when he plays. I just worry that if they switch to a back 5, he's the one that might drop out. But I think all 4 of those you've listed are great. You've got 3 Chelsea defenders, which are all good, and Shaw, who is probably outside of the Chelsea defence, maybe outside of the Arsenal defence, the best option to replace him. But I really like Shaw and Cucurella out of those 2 options, probably the most. Missing out on the Indian just isn't worth it. They're going to order my Indian for me, and I'm going to heat it up. So I'm not missing out. Don't worry. What is your favourite Indian food dish? I'm going to get a chicken tikka madras. Chicken tikka madras is beautiful. See, Claudette says fish and chips. Fish and chips. There you go. It's Friday. Friday fish and chips. Fish and chips. What is it with the UK and fish and... It's a very UK thing, is fish and chips on a Friday. Oh, my back is killing me. Urgh. Have you given them your order, or are you letting them decide? Yeah, I've given them my order. I've given them my order. Don't worry. Stick your neck on one, Shaw or Cucurella. You want me to stick my neck on one? Because I do keep saying I like Shaw and Cucurella, don't I? Stick my neck on one. Shaw. Shaw long term, Cucurella short term. If you want to really attack the next 2 game weeks, it's Cucurella, right? Because they've got Forest and then a double. But if you're looking at least 4 to 6 weeks, I do prefer Luke Shaw. What are your plans for New Year's Eve? Sorry if you've already answered this. I think I'm spending it with my sister. If not, it'll be with my mother. I am someone that is slightly boring on New Year's Eve. That for me, my perspective on New Year's Eve is I want to start the year with the people that I love and that mean the most to me. I don't want to start New Year's Eve pissed in the middle of a club, drunk, feeling crap on New Year's Day. I like to start the year the right way with the people that I love. So I tend to spend New Year's Eve with my family. So I'm going to spend it probably with my sister or my mother. And I'm probably going to go to the gym on the 1st as well. I start the year proper, as best I can anyway. In a flip on the Foden questions, do you think Grealish missing so many chances plays against him in Pep's mind going forward? No, I don't, Matt. I think he'll be looking more at the fact that Grealish was getting the chances. I think Pep will like Grealish's performance against Leeds. I think he'll look at the way that Grealish played and think that was a good performance. He was getting chances. He was tested, especially in the second half. The first half was pretty poor, but second half Grealish was really good. This deadline seems so much more chilled than the last one. We've got a third of the people. Last stream, we had between 6,000 and 7,000 people watching. This one, we've got 2,300 watching. So that's why. We've got a third of the messages in the chat and a third of the people here. It's because there's not many decisions to make, or not as many, and unlimited transfers is always going to be pretty hectic, isn't it? Ben White is risky. Arsenal not kept a clean sheet against Brighton for a long time now. This is true. This is true. The fact that Grealish served that goal up on a plate to Haaland means he'll start at least the next 2 games. Wouldn't be surprised. Pep is looking to feed Haaland, and Grealish was doing that. And Foden sometimes doesn't do that, so we'll see. Imagine if that's why Foden hasn't started. Maybe Foden had a falling out with Haaland. Who knows? I don't think that's the case. Just making up stuff. Raptor, should I go to the gym before the Liverpool game? You get to decide. I would always encourage you to do so, yes. So I will say yes, go to the gym. As long as you're feeling it. Don't do it if you're really not feeling it. Have a little breaks Friday, but I would go if you can. I went to the gym yesterday at 9 p.m. and I was not feeling it at all. So, would you bench boost with Cucurella? I would start Cucurella. I wouldn't ever have Cucurella on my bench. But if he is on your bench, I guess you could bench boost with him. If you're asking if I would bench boost, no. I would put Cucurella instead of White, and I would just put White onto my bench. Start Mount or Martinelli this game week. Mount. Ross, attack the fixtures, do Cucurella. I am tempted, but I would be extremely frustrated if Arsenal keep a clean sheet. I'd be extremely frustrated. Because I could have saved a transfer, I lose out on the Arsenal clean sheet, and I'm in a position then going into game week 19 where I'm 1 transfer down and I didn't need to make it. I've still not decided. I may well do the James to Cucurella move. What are your hopes for your channel in 2023? I'll answer that after the deadline, Liam, if I do stay for a little bit. I'm hesitant to talk about non-FPL stuff too much. Bench Cucurella or Shaw this week? I wouldn't bench either, but if you have to, I would bench Shaw. But I don't think you want to bench either. Are we getting any news for who is starting? Who do you want to know about, Emmanuel? Apparently the Liverpool team is unchanged. Cucurella equals top 500. White equals top 5,000. You can thank me later. Stop tempting me. Stop tempting me. Oh, you're so sweet. Friends and family first, but working out on New Year's Day is up there with taking the polar bear dip in Lake Ontario. Firstly, I'd love to do that. Secondly, I don't drink much anyway, so me going to the gym on New Year's Day isn't too bad. Come on, Ross, start Kepper. Should I run a poll then? Please, can I just say before I run this poll, please vote honestly. I know you all own Kepper and none of you own Edison. Please don't vote for Kepper because you own Kepper. Please think if I owned Edison against Everton at home and Kepper against Forest away, who would I start? Okay? Please don't answer just because you own Kepper. I feel like you're going to do that anyway, but you know. Also, there's a bit of recency bias that Chelsea kept a clean sheet in game week 17 and City conceded in game week 17, but we'll see. I suppose if I bring in Cucurella, if I bring in Cucurella, then I cover Edison with the clean sheet and I cover Chelsea's clean sheet, but I lose Arsenal's clean sheet. So I can cover 2 of City, Chelsea, and Arsenal. I can't cover all 3 really. Yelena says Chelsea kept a clean sheet. I hadn't noticed. Yeah, that 9-pointer still hurts. If Kepa gets another sort of 7, 8, 9 points, I'm going to cry. If Edison concedes. The thing is, I understand someone just said as well about save points and bonus. This is the thing with Kepa, is Kepa is much more likely to get a 9 or 10 pointer. Edison doesn't get those hauls, does he? I'm almost certain he never gets bonus points and saves. Let's have a look. 7, 6, 6, 6, 6, 9, 5, and then 2s. So yeah, he's not really going to get you more than a 6-pointer. So I guess Kepa could be the one, because Kepa's probably going to get you more likely to get you sort of 8 or 9. Everton don't take shots, so he isn't getting saves and bonus points this week. Oh, don't tempt me to start Kepa. It's the fact that it's away. If it was at Stamford Bridge, I'd feel significantly more happy starting Kepa. I don't like the fact that it's at the City ground. It's honestly such a difficult stadium to go to. I do think Chelsea looked a little bit shaky at the back in 17. Tricky one. Hi, Ross. Start one of White, Chalobah, or Andreas. I would start Andreas. Also, apparently Lucien become a member for 1 month. I've missed that somehow. Start Dunk or replace James with Cucurella. I would replace James with Cucurella probably. Okay, I've just seen that message pop up. Yeah, sorry, Lucien. I would replace James with Cucurella. I don't think Dunk's going to keep a clean sheet, so I'd be happy making that move. I'm unsure what I'm doing, by the way. I still don't know if I'm starting Kepa or Edison, and I still don't know if I'm bringing in Cucurella for James. I think if I bring in Cucurella for James, I'll definitely start Edison, because I don't think I'd double up on the Chelsea defense and lose a City defender. I think I'm going to back myself and keep Edison. I think Edison's much more likely to keep a clean sheet. Oh, camera's gone again. Camera was absolutely fine for an hour and 15, then it's crashed twice. No Mitrovic. No, I don't have Mitrovic, unfortunately. Maybe I'll get him for game week 19. I guess we'll wait and see. Are you sure that Arsenal are going to keep a clean sheet against Brighton? No, I'm not. I'm not at all. Start Edison, buy Cucurella, thumbs up. Yeah, probably makes sense, doesn't it? Darshul says it's not the camera, it's Ross sneaking in that taste of Indian food he was talking about. No, it's not. I can confirm. I'm not eating. James says, hi Ross, when's the best time to use my free hit? It will be in a blank or double game week later in the season. I would say probably sometime after game week 28. So you've got 10 game weeks to wait and keep the free hit. There'll be a big blank game week and there'll be at least 2 big double game weeks as well. So there'll be plenty of opportunities in the future to use your free hit. I wouldn't be using it anytime soon. The value in keeping your free hit is massive. If you've not played FPL before or you've not played it seriously before, hanging on to that free hit is so valuable. Would you start Andreas or Martinelli? I'd still just about lean Martinelli myself. Andreas or Wilson is still Andreas. Camera looks better like that, Luke says. Outrageous. Do you guys not want to see my face? Well, yeah, that's it then. No more face. Thoughts on Trossard out, Rodrigo in? I don't think you know. I'd keep Trossard. What are your opinions on Trossard? I would start Andreas ahead of Trossard just about, but I don't think you need to sell Trossard. And again, if you told me you were starting Trossard ahead of Andreas, I don't mind that at all. I think Trossard's the better player. Trossard is more likely to score. Trossard is playing up top for Brighton at the moment, but Andreas has been putting up good stats and he's got a much better fixture, and he's on set pieces as well. I know my face has gone. I know my face has gone. When's the deadline? I think it's 6:15, right? So half an hour you've got until the deadline. Oh my God. The camera needs so much longer turned off these time. You've convinced me. We'll order an Indian ahead of the deadline. Yeah, get an Indian in you. Absolutely. It's the best takeaway. The best takeaway. Foden to Almiron. I don't hate it, but if Foden starts, I think he's a better option. I always think Foden's a better option. He puts up better stats, and City are a better attack. But yeah, Almiron's fantastic. If you want to do it, go for it. How bad is it that I've already used my free hit? I would say it's probably 30 to 40 points. Bad. That's roughly what I think a free hit should get you. So I think you will, at some point this season, unless you're very lucky or you plan perfectly well, but even so, I think you'll probably lose 30 to 40 points on a manager such as myself. So a manager that knows how to play the free hit, I think you'll end up probably losing 30 to 40 points on us. Would you bring Almiron in for Trossard? Yeah, I don't mind that. But again, I would probably just keep Trossard. I don't think that's a priority move, especially as Brighton might get a double game week in 21. I think you can probably keep Trossard. Let me try the camera again. Almiron or Ødegaard? That's a tough one. I would just lean Almiron, but I think, like I said, Ødegaard does look really good at the moment. There you go, no lag. Success. Would you start Dalot? I don't think Dallow's going to be fit, but Dalot is back in training, which is an interesting one. So, no, I wouldn't start Dalot, but I definitely wouldn't sell Dalot. Because, yeah, again, he's back in training. I think probably Game Week 18 will be too soon. Game Week 19 is a possibility, but Game Week 20 onwards, I would expect Dalot to be back. Especially as there's a bit of a break between Game Week 19 and Game Week 20. What are your thoughts on Trent? I still think it's too early with the Liverpool defence. They're still not good enough for me. I still would look at other players instead. I'm very tempted by Cucurella in for White. I'm very tempted. It's a tricky one. Let me just have a quick look at that transfer. I want to see if it blocks me from anything. So I've got 0.8 million in the bank. If I do James to Cucurella, I still have enough to do Martial to Havertz. Right, I've still got plenty of money to do that. What other move might I want to make? I've got enough if I want to do Martinelli to Mount. I've got enough to do Andreas to Almiron after the double. I think Foden to Mount and Martial to Havertz or Martial to Mitrovic, they're the only three moves I'd probably want to make. So I don't think there's a massive risk in doing James to Cucurella this week and benching White. Cucurella has blocked me from doing Foden to Mount. I assume you mean Mount to Foden, Frosty. Because Foden's more expensive. But I don't think you're going to want Foden. I don't think we're going to want Foden at the moment. Rashford to Trossard was the one you wanted in Game Week 17 in case for double, yeah. So I would still have enough for that. I'd have 1.4 million in the bank if I do James to Cucurella. So I don't think I'm going to be blocked by going for Cucurella instead of someone like a Botman or who else might I want? Dunk, for example. I don't think I need that extra money to downgrade. I'm tempted by Cucurella. Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. That puts you on a Chelsea triple up. Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Please, Ross, start Andreas or Erdegaard. I'd start Erdegaard ahead of Andreas, personally. Foden or Rashford? Rashford. Ian says, Raptor, you're so handsome. Thank you very much, Ian. I appreciate that. Who on the bench? Martinelli, Erdegaard or Trossard? Trossard. And just back Arsenal to beat Brighton 2 or 3-0, I guess. Hope Trossard doesn't score. Salah's record isn't great with Leicester. Fair enough. I'm not going to sell him. I'm not going to captain him. So it doesn't matter too much for me. Who's your captain in Game Week 19? It will probably be Mount, Mitrovic or Havertz. I don't own any of those at the moment, but I will probably bring in an attacker with a double game week. Punt on Darwin captain in case Haaland's minutes are reduced. I don't mind that, Mike, but I don't think they're going to be reduced enough to make someone a better captaincy option. Like, I would prefer Haaland with 60 minutes than Darwin with 80 minutes. Personally. So I would still back Haaland. If I'm not bringing in Cucurella for James this week, isn't that arguing for not doing so next week either and looking to load up on more attacking options for the double game weeks? Potentially. Yeah, potentially you can justify in game week 19 instead of going for Cucurella. I guess that's a decent point, Dave. If I don't make the move this week and roll, like next week, I could bring in like Mount and Mitrovic for Foden and Martial. I couldn't do Mount and Havertz, right? Because I already have triple Chelsea then with James. Oh, sorry, I typed in Havertz. Mitrovic. Is that a better... Like, is that better to bring in Mount and Mitrovic instead of bringing in... I don't know. Instead of bringing in Cucurella this week. To have the option to bring in 2 attackers. So I would actually have Kepa, Andreas, Mount, and Mitrovic. So 4 double game week players. And then defenders, I would start Castagna, Trippier, and Shaw. Foden's got Chelsea, though. Foden's got Chelsea next week, so... It's a tough one. It is a tough one. And I can't decide, so I'll probably end up not doing it because I can't decide if I want to do it. I just feel like two transfers are very valuable next week, I think, for Game Week 19. Is Wilson starting? We don't know. Very unlikely. I think it's more likely he'll be on the bench if he features. I don't think they'll rush him into the starting 11. But he could do. I guess there's a very small chance. If Mitrovic gets a yellow this week, what do you do with the second transfer next week? Then I probably do Cucurella. It will probably be Cucurella and Mount. All right, or Cucurella and Havertz. Hey, great stream, brother. Thank you very much, Beardy. I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Andreas or Martial? I prefer Martial. Hey, Ross, is Wilson starting? I still don't know. If I had to guess, I would say he features off the bench, in which case I would prefer to bench him rather than start him. If Mitrovic gets a yellow card, does he miss a game? Yeah. So if Mitrovic gets booked against Southampton, he will miss Leicester. Is it Leicester? Is it Leicester and Chelsea, that double, isn't it? So if Mitrovic gets booked against Southampton, he misses the Leicester game. If he gets booked against Leicester, he misses the Chelsea game. Obviously, if he gets booked against Chelsea, then he misses the Newcastle game. And then Fulham have to play 19 games before the threshold moves from 5 to 10. So he's got a few games to try and avoid getting that 5th yellow. Darren says, I have no City defender. Shall I do James to Stones? I do think Stones will start this week, but I still don't know that I like the idea of picking a City defender because I just don't think any of them are nailed enough. I think I would prefer like a Luke Shaw. Playing for a worse defence, yes, but arguably better attacking threat and more nailed. Or a Ben White. I don't think the City defence are it's good enough that it's worth risking them being benched every 2 or 3 games. Gakpo is 8 million. What do you think? Yeah, Gakpo, like I said, is going to be a really interesting option. For now, it's a wait and see. But absolutely, he's going to rival the likes of Foden, Saka, I'm sure, at some point. But for now, I'm not interested. I need to see if he's going to start. We need to see how long Jota and Diaz are out for, if there's any news on that. If Firmino comes back, they could play Darwin on the left, Firmino and Salah. They could switch to like a 4-3-1-2, in which case Gakpo may be on the bench. So all these things are really making me want to wait rather than move straight on Gakpo. Keep James and use Andreas first sub, so it would be a 2-5-3. You can't play 2 defenders and you can't play 8 attackers. You have to play 3 defenders. So if I keep James and use Andreas as first sub, it would be Castagna coming on or White coming on. You have to have 3 defenders. James is dropping in price. Shouldn't we take him out? If you need the 0.1, then yeah. But if you don't need the 0.1, then no. I think it's fine losing. I think sometimes information and having more time to think rather than rushing it is sometimes more important than 0.1 million. I'll see if we've got any early team news quickly on Twitter. Just lots of people talking about Gakpo at the moment. No, it doesn't look like we've got any news other than that the Liverpool lineup looks like it's going to be unchanged. So Darwin, Robbo, Trent, Salah will start, which I think we expected anyway. Let's go back to the chat. Ross, should I play Botman or White for James? I would, if you've got Trippier already, maybe you just spread the risk slightly, because I think I could see Leeds and Brighton both scoring. So maybe you just spread the risk slightly and go for White. But if you really back the Newcastle defence, because they are arguably the best defence in the league at the moment, I think Pope's kept the most clean sheets, then maybe you go for Botman and double up. It is a home fixture, but Leeds, for all the question marks around Leeds, they are a relatively good attack and they do score goals. They scored against City. Why didn't you buy Almiron in the first place? Good question. I liked my other midfield 5 better. That's as simple as that. Almiron was probably, along with Trossard, my 6th favourite midfielder, but you can only pick 5, so I picked my 5 favourites. Shaw or Azpilicueta for James/Dalot. Next week, Zaha to Salah. I prefer Shaw to Azpilicueta. I wouldn't sell Dalot. I wouldn't sell Dalot because Dalot looks like he's going to be back soon. I probably wouldn't buy Dalot yet, just in case it's a little bit longer than we think. Maybe he's eased in quite slowly, but I wouldn't be selling Dalot either. Chelsea a 41% chance of keeping a clean sheet. Arsenal 29%. Stop trying to convince me, Frosty. I could be convinced. I think I'm going to wait. I think I'm going to just play Ben White. If Cucurella smashes it, Cucurella smashes it. And I take my medicine. But I think if Mitrovic does escape the suspension, I think bringing in Mount and Mitro could be a little bit nicer than bringing in Cucurella. I also think Cucurella is a short-term option. And I'm not sure I want to be messing around with short-term options for my defence. Maybe bringing in a longer-term option at some point is a slightly better idea. Where you can also, if I don't remove James this week or next week, I might end up losing like 0.2 million. But I might also have more information about the doubles as well. Start Martinelli or Foden? I would probably risk starting Foden. But with Martinelli, you know he's going to play. There's a good chance Foden's benched again. So it's up to you, Yusuf. Captain in Darwin, what do you think? I don't have an issue with that. I'm going to captain Haaland because even if Haaland plays 60 and Darwin plays 80, I prefer Haaland. I prefer Haaland for 60. But if there is a week to captain Darwin, maybe this is the week to do so. He missed 4 big chances in Game 17. He'll probably get big chances again. Surely he can't continue to miss big chances. So yeah, I don't hate it. Listen, if Darwin pops off tonight and gets like 2 or 3 goals, I will be delighted, regardless if I've captained him or not. Who are you going to switch for James? I don't know at the moment. Cucurella or Dunk are probably the two most likely. James to White. Yeah, I don't mind Ben. I think Ben White and Luke Shaw are two very safe bets for James replacements. I did James to Dunk very nicely. I think Dunk's good, especially with the fact that Brighton have 2 fixtures to rearrange. They should have a double relatively soon. Leicester might cause an upset today to win Liverpool 2-1. They might do, Barry. Who knows? I think I would back Liverpool to win, but we'll see. Play Andreas or Trossard. I'm just leaning Andreas. I think that's the most difficult question on today's stream, and I've been asked it quite a few times, but I think Andreas and Trossard are both fine. I could justify starting either of them. Is the FPL site down? Maybe. Let me have a look. No, it's fine for me. It's not down for me. Leicester have a lot of injuries. Yeah, Leicester are struggling a little bit, and they looked really poor in game week 17. Can you show Manchester United's fixtures? I can. So Manchester United have Wolves, Bournemouth, so 2 decent fixtures. They then have City and Arsenal, which aren't easy fixtures. But again, 2 fixtures where Manchester United, like I said, they can keep it tight at the back in those tricky fixtures. And then it's just a really nice run after that. And this run here, we've got 3 home fixtures in 4 weeks. So I don't think I'll be selling Rashford and Shaw. I probably will sell Martial just because if we sign a striker, he's a minute's risk anyway, and due to his injury record. But I think I'll hang on to Rashford and to Shaw. I don't see any need to sell them. I suppose my only issue with selling Martial next week is he's got Bournemouth at home. Like, it is a really nice fixture. Do I want to sell Martial for Mitrovic? Not really. But I do. It is a double game week. I'm starting to lose confidence in my Andreas over Martinelli pick. Must hold firm. I don't think you need to hold firm. If you think that there's information you've had since then that's made you change your opinion, change it. Chat, do I bring in Cucurella this week? No, I roll. Roll the transfer. Roll the transfer, Ross. Giving myself advice. I think rolling the transfer makes sense. Just because if I pick up any injuries this week, I'm going to need or want 2 free transfers. Yeah, chat, put roll or no roll. Roll or no roll. Most people are saying roll, and then there's a few. If you don't do it, can you deal with the heat on Twitter? Yeah, absolutely. I don't really care what people say. I think what I've done well this year is I think I've been very patient and I've not allowed myself to get carried away with little 1-week punts, and I've just stuck to my game, rolled the transfer wherever I can, and I think that's worked really, really well for me. So I think if I'm staying true to what I've done well this season, I think I should roll. Hey, mate, sure this was asked before. Sold James, have Wilson start or bench and start Andreas, or sell to Mitrovic for a hit. The fact that it's for a hit, I would say start Andreas. If it wasn't for a hit, I don't mind bringing in Mitrovic for Wilson. But I think Andreas is fine. He's on all set pieces apart from pens when Mitrovic is on the pitch. And he's got really good data. Like I said, he put up 0.89 expected goal involvement against Southampton. Not against Southampton, against... in game week 17. Can't remember they played. Crystal Palace. Put up 0.89 expected goal involvement. So he played really well. I think Andreas is fine to start. I definitely wouldn't be taking a hit personally to bench Andreas. I think most people are saying roll, and then there are a few people that have been a little bit cheeky. I think I meant to say cheeky. They've been a little bit cheeky trying to make me not roll. I was having a discussion with Yelena earlier in the week as well about being patient and the fact that I think that's the mark of a good manager, if possible. That isn't to say don't ever be aggressive and don't ever take hits, but I think if possible, if you can, rolling is always a decent shout. I want you to roll so I can spend a week saying told you so. Do you know what? I'll block you, Frost. I'll block you. If anyone tries saying told you so, they're getting blocked. Let me see if the site's down. Someone just asked again. No, site still seems up for me. If you are having any issues, you can always just try in the app instead. You can always try in the app. But no, the site seems fine. I don't think that it will crash today because no one really cares about early team news. Most people have made their transfer if they're going to make it anyway. It's not like with unlimited transfers. Yeah, I might predict the results in a second. I'm not going to do that now. Let me just put out my tweet to show my team off. I've got it prepared already. No offense, but I'm doing the opposite to whatever you do. That's fine. Aaron, go for it. No issue with that. Cool. So let me just go grab that tweet so that you can all like it and make me feel loved. I'll do anything for a Twitter like. Anything for a Twitter like. Not anything. I mean, maybe anything. Probably not anything, you know, but there you go. Go like my tweet. Make me feel loved. Will Foden start? I don't know. I'm going to say hopefully, not yes. Hopefully he starts. We kind of need him to start, right? Otherwise, that's an absolutely shocking pick. I love a nice Bueno. Lovely chocolate. Kinder Bueno is arguably one of the best chocolates. Azpilicueta over Cucurella. If you want to, sure. Start Shaw or Wilson. I would start Luke Shaw because Wilson, again, there's a good chance he's on the bench. Zaha or Andreas to start. I would start Zaha. To go against Ross is crazy. He's so highly ranked. I am quite lucky, though. Feel free to go against me. I don't ever recommend people copy me. I'll probably end up lower than most people. Do your own thing. Castagna or Dunk. I think Dunk's probably a slightly better option. I love Castagna, but I think Dunk's probably objectively the better option. I'm 37k and I'm captaining Salah. Best of luck, Ralph. Best of luck, Ralph. Your argument against the City defence also works against Foden. Argument against the City defence. I can't remember what I said. Che Adams or Andreas Pereira, who to bench? I would probably bench Che Adams. Southampton look terrible and Andreas is on all set pieces and he's at home. But I obviously, Che Adams is a striker, so there's more chance of scoring a goal, I guess. Foden or Martinelli to start. If Foden starts, I much prefer him to Martinelli this week, but it's a risk. So if you're risk averse, start Martinelli. If you're a risk seeking person and you'd like taking risks, then start Foden. Foden has the higher upside, in my opinion. James for White or Cucurella? I think White's the safer option. Again, Cucurella's the more exciting pick with the double game week. But White is someone that you can hold for the rest of the season if you want to. Start Saliba or Botman. I think that's pretty tricky. I'd probably just lean Saliba, but I think you could start either. I think there's a good chance Leeds and Brighton both score. Gabriel or Zaha. Andreas or Erdegaard. Probably Erdegaard. I back Arsenal slightly more than Fulham. I'm back. Have I missed anything? I don't think you've missed anything. Just answering questions as always. In Game Week 19, I would have Salah, Mount, Rashford, Martinelli, Haaland, Martial, Mitrovic if I roll this week. Hold James next as well and do transfers next week for Mount and Mitrovic. Sounds good, like a good plan, Dave. I think I like the sound of that. Is Salah a differential? Yeah, he actually is. At my rank, so in like the top 10k, he was 37% owned. So like, yeah, you're going to gain like going to gain about 2/3 of Salah's points. You'll gain. So yeah, he's a relative differential. Like you don't need Darwin and Salah are actually quite lowly owned, a lot lower than I thought. So you don't really need to captain them to gain. Whereas Haaland, obviously, if you don't captain him and he smashes it, you're going to really lose rank because everyone's going to own and captain Haaland. Shaw, Botman, or White. If you're asking who to bring in, Shaw or White, I probably prefer slightly to Botman. If you're asking who to start this week, I think Shaw's the best option there. Martial or Andreas. As you can see on the screen, I'm starting Martial. Yeah, I'm not going to do the Cucurella move. I'm going to roll. 5 minutes until the deadline. Thank you very much. for the reminder. Yeah, 5 minutes, guys. So I wouldn't. You can still ask a few last minute questions, but get your teams locked in. Bench order, captaincy, vice captaincy. Make sure you've made your transfers if you're going to make them. And yeah, my advice is always, if you can roll, but don't feel like you have to. If you want to get a little bit aggressive, make that transfer. Hey, Ross, start Botman or White. It's the same thing again. I think both teams will probably score. I would just about lean White just to cover the Arsenal defence. This is assuming you own Trippier. I think maybe it's nice to just spread the risk slightly. But if you fancy the Newcastle defence on a double up, go for it. Trossard, Martial, or Foden start one. I would start Foden and risk it, but probably Trossard and Martial are slightly safer to start. Bueno or Dunk? Probably Dunk. Bueno might not even play 60 minutes. He might not even start. Aït-Nouri could start, so I'd probably go Dunk. Havertz or Martial? I probably just about prefer Havertz, but I think Martial slightly more nailed on to start. But obviously he doesn't get 90 minutes. Havertz probably more likely to get more minutes when he does start. Andreas over Martial? Not for me. I prefer Martial. Sorry. I muted and then unmuted. I've just coughed down the mic extremely loudly. Oh, I'm dying over here. Start Andreas or Rodrigo? Who are Leeds playing? Newcastle. Probably Andreas. Although Rodrigo is probably going to be on penalties in the absence of Bamford. I don't like benching a penalty taker. Maybe Rodrigo for the pens. Andreas or Nketiah? I prefer Nketiah. Nketiah looked decent in the second half. First half he struggled a little bit. Second half he was decent. De Bruyne to Salah for a -4. No, I hate that. Dalot's seen in training. Yeah, I saw Dalot was in training. So he should be back very soon. Start Andreas or White? I prefer Andreas to White. Would you bench Foden? I think you either sell Foden or keep Foden and start him. I don't think you bench him. Because if he starts, he's absolutely brilliant. Please mention Cancelo. There's nothing to mention, Mike. There's nothing to mention. I think Cancelo will start. I think Cancelo's a fantastic option. I think you should keep Cancelo. Martinelli or Almiron benched? I would probably bench Martinelli and start Almiron, but that's a really tricky one. Why not sell James? I think I'd just rather a little bit more information, a little bit more time to think, and maybe allow myself with 2 attacking transfers next week. Almiron or De Bruyne for vice-captain? I'd vice-captain Almiron. I always like vice-captain someone in a different game. If for some random reason the City game gets called off, you lose your captain and your vice-captain. Missed watching these streams over the World Cup. Thank you very much, Luke. I missed doing them over the World Cup as well. James Cucurella or wait a week and start White? I've leaned towards starting White, but I think Cucurella is the slightly more aggressive aggressive transfer to bring in. But I do think there's value in having 2 free transfers. So I'm leaning towards rolling and keeping White, but I think it's absolutely fine bringing in Cucurella. Just found out we got another wild card. You get 2 wild cards a season. So yeah, we do have another wild card to use. Got less than a minute until the deadline. Lock those teams in. Less than a minute. Get them locked in. Andreas or Trossard? Andreas still. Just. Thanks for the stream, Ross. I'm signing out. Best of luck for Game Week 18. Start Koulibaly or Saliba. Koulibaly probably. Trossard or Martial? I'd start Martial. Triple Man United is wild. Yeah, it is a little bit, isn't it? When to use the bench boost? Later in the season. Game week sort of 30 onwards probably. $25 seconds. Yeah, you're locked. You're locked. By the time you see this, you'll be locked in. We did it. Another deadline done. Success. Well done, everyone. I think that went all right. There are a lot of tricky decisions. A lot sort of like start this person or this person, which is always tricky because like anything could happen and I don't want to be responsible for you starting the wrong player. But I think hopefully I helped you a little bit there. And hopefully we locked in the few decisions. I'm almost definitely going to regret not bringing in Cucurella. It was the aggressive move. I don't want to be completely passive, but I just think that unless Cucurella gets me an attacking return, even if Cucurella gets a 6-pointer and White gets a 2-pointer, I don't mind. Like, if I lose 4 points there, I don't mind. It's if Cucurella gets like a 15-pointer and White gets a 2-pointer. If I lose out like 13 points, that's going to hurt. So I just need Cucurella to not massively outscore Ben White and I'll be fine. Frosty with the massive super chat, my man. I appreciate you so much. He says, just getting some practice in. Told you so. See, I've got the difficult decision now of, do I block you? But you've just given me a really nice super chat. So now I don't want to block you. But yeah, as soon as the told you so's come in, you're getting blocked. Loads of people have gone for Darwin and Salah captain. Do you know what? I love it. I love the bravery. Fingers crossed, Salah and Darwin smash it. I'll be active over on Twitter, I'm sure. And I'll be absolutely delighted if any of you captain Darwin or Salah and they outscore Haaland. I would love that for you. Absolutely love that. James to Cucurella done, locked in, very nice. Good job. I wish I went Darwin captain. I'm very jealous. I always am very jealous of people that just make a move that's just really bold, because it's just not been the way I've played this season. But I think I need to stick with what's working well for me. And yeah, I don't think... I think there's going to be value to having 2 free transfers in 18. And if in 19, sorry. And if there's not, I'll carry one forward to 20. Thank you, Ross, for saying that. Makes us more confident that Darwin will score. I do think Darwin will get at least 1 return. I'm feeling relatively confident in Darwin tonight. Not been on the stream for a while. It's good to be back. What's your favourite type of cheese, Mr. Raptor? Brie is a lovely cheese. Can't go wrong with just cheddar. Gouda is quite nice. What else? I kind of like any sort of smoked cheese as well. Like, you know, like smoked cheese on cracker. Most cheese is nice. The only cheese I'm not a massive fan of is blue cheese, which I know upsets a lot of people, but it's not my favourite. It's a bit smelly. Is my main issue with it. I'm like a child. It smells, so I don't want it. What do we do now if Foden doesn't start? Yeah, if Foden doesn't start again, he's getting sold. But like I said, even if he starts, I might sell Foden for Mount anyway. Mr. Raptor is the father, man. This guy is just Ross. Oh, Mr. Raptor is his father. No, I can be Mr. Raptor if you want to. I can be whatever you want me to be. Whatever you want me to be. Blue cheese and honey is the best. I strongly disagree. I haven't tried it, to be fair, but there we go. Just tuned in. Foden, really? Yeah, why not? Why not pick Foden? I had him since Game Week 17. I didn't bring him in this week, but we'll see. Have you been to any United games this season, mate? Frustratingly, I bought tickets to the Manchester United Leeds game that was called off. So the only game that I had the chance to go to was called off. I bought a ticket to that. So no, I haven't been to any this season, unfortunately. How did Nana Raptor get on last week? I think it was like 86 points. I can't check now because the site stopped. I think it was like high 80s. She did quite well. She had Tony. She had Tony and Wilson. She had Martinelli and Saka. She captained Haaland. She had a good team. Ross, thanks for reaching out to me to how to make FPL videos. Really appreciate it, mate. Hope you're feeling better and have a great New Year's. YouTube, I'm always happy to help. Anyone that needs help with YouTube, I'm absolutely more than happy to help. If you ever want advice on how to create a video, whether it be like talking to a camera, confidence, or whether it be literally like a technical question, how do you record a video or how do you make your graphics, I'm always happy to try and help. I think YouTube is absolutely brilliant and I'm genuinely passionate about YouTube. And I think there's plenty of space for other FPL YouTubers as well. So if anyone wants any help, then let me know. Have you got a girlfriend now? Alexander asks. No, still no girlfriend. This is going to be a thing where in like 4 or 5 years I'm still streaming. Ross, have you got a girlfriend? No, still no girlfriend. No girlfriend. Darwin is bagging tonight. I agree, Thomas. Darwin is bagging tonight for sure. Could Gakpo be a good option? I think so. I have faith in Gakpo being a good option. I don't know if he's going to be a good option from like Game Week 19. I'd like to give him 2 or 3 weeks. But the issue is if we give him too long, then Jota and Diaz will start to come back and Firmino. and then he's less of an issue. He's less of a good option, I should say. Have you ever had goat cheese from Poland? Potentially. Not recently. This is my favourite part of the stream. It's my favourite part. Unfortunately, I'm only going to be able to do it for like another 10 minutes because I've got an Indian that's just sat there getting cold. So I'm gonna head off and do that, obviously, in like 10, 15 minutes. What plans have you got for the New Year's? Like I said earlier in the stream, I'm just going to spend the New Year's with family. So no massive plans. Does Yelena know you don't have a girlfriend? Yeah, yes, she does. Piers Morgan or Andrew Tate? They're just neither. Neither. I'm going to say neither. What's your workout routine? It's push-pull legs twice a week, but I've been ill, so non-existent recently. Yeah, PPL twice, so 6 times a week. Just rotate that round. Any Spurs assets you were looking at for the future? Maybe a Spurs wing-back if they start to defend slightly better, but for now, no, I'm not interested. I prefer Salah to Kane. I prefer Saka, Mount, and Foden to Kulusevski. And the Spurs defenders are just conceding, so they're not great options. Eat on stream. The thing is, my sister lives close to my nan, but it's like a 5-10 minute walk, so I'm not going to go get the Indian, come back, and eat a chicken tikka madras on stream. As much as I'm sure some of you would enjoy that, you little weirdos. No, I'm not going to eat my Indian on stream. God, that squeaky chair does my nut in. Post the Indian on Twitter. Want to see what you ordered. I ordered a chicken tikka madras, naan, just like a standard. I think I ordered 8 poppadoms. There is justification for this, right? Firstly, I'm a fatty that loves poppadoms. Like I could eat poppadoms for days. However, also later I'm going to be playing Rocket League and Call of Duty with my sister and her fiance, and it's really nice to snack on poppadoms later. So I've just ordered basically the entire restaurant's worth of poppadoms. Yelena says, are you going to learn to swim in 2023? I can confirm I can already swim very well. Thank you very much. But yeah, maybe I'll learn to swim a little bit better. Are you currently the most famous man in Nottingham? I would say probably like yes. No, definitely not. What's your squat PB? My squat PB is 155 kilos, but that was like 4 years ago. My squat PB now is about 120. But yeah, 155 kilos. What are your plans for your YouTube channel in 2023? Just more of the same. Hopefully continued growth. I would love to hit 100,000 subscribers in 2023. We're currently at about 56,000, but the growth has been crazy. So at the start of the season, before preseason content, I was on 15,000. So we've gained over 40,000 subscribers in the space of like 3 or 4 months. So if it continues at that rate, we could hit like 150,000 subscribers. But I understand that it doesn't always grow exponentially like that. So we'll see. But 100,000 subscribers would be absolutely awesome. And just continue to try and make high quality content. As long as I'm providing value, then I'm happy. Right? That's the goal. That's the goal at the end of the day. Have a nice New Year's, bro. You too as well, Horsebox. Thank you very much. The squeaky chair is funny. It clearly irritates you, but we can't hear it. I'm glad you can't hear it. It's basically, I'm wedged into a really tiny single room, and my green screen is pressed up against my chair. So like I'm touching my green screen like right next to my head here. And it's squeaking on the green screen. It's doing my nut in. It's not the chair that's squeaking. It's the chair on the green screen. I'll take a picture at some point to show you guys. Do you know what? I could probably do that, couldn't I? I'm going to take it. There you go. Wait, is that, you're not going to be able to... I'm such an idiot. Can someone delete that from existence? I just tried showing you my green screen on a camera that gets rid of the green screen. Like, I'm special. That's I don't know what's wrong with me. There you go. There's the green screen you that you can't see because the camera gets rid of the green screen. That's a hilarious. I promise I'm quite intelligent sometimes. Have you ever thought about doing watch-alongs? What an idiot. No, because I don't have a TV. I watch stuff like via like Virgin Go. My parents have Virgin and they have like an online streaming, or I'll watch it on like Sky Sports Go. So I'm always behind. So I think the chat would just ruin it because I'm always like 2 or 3 minutes behind. If I get a TV at some point, maybe. Goodness me. Why the chat? Don't laugh at me. You're not very supportive, are you? I mean, as chats go, I'm not feeling the level of support. You're just laughing at me. How tall are you, Raptor? A huge, mate. 6'10". I'm massive. I am just shy of 5'10". I say that because I say I'm 5'9", and then people meet me in real life and they say I'm taller than 5'9", but I don't think I'm quite 5'10". Let's say 5'10". Do you know what? Let's just round up to 6 foot. I'm 6 foot. Do you play ranked Rocket League, mate? I basically only play when I play with my sister and her fiance, so I don't really play very often. They are excellent. They've played like 5,000 games or something, so they're like amazing, and I'm terrible. So I just sort of sit in the goal and just jump up and down. So I'm not very good at Rocket League. This is a sign that you need to eat. I absolutely need to eat. Thank you, Yelena. I do really need to eat. I haven't eaten today at all. Actually, that's a lie. This is going to be really gross for some of you. I got 20 chicken nuggets last night on the way home from the gym at like 11 p.m. I only ate 13 of those nuggets because, you know, I'd already had dinner. Don't eat 20 nuggets at like 11 p.m. by the time I got home. So I had 7 leftover chicken nuggets, and that's all I've eaten today is 7 chicken nuggets. So there we go. I do need food. Why has someone said that our little wassy kiss kiss? Why is our little wassy kiss kiss? What did I do? Why am I getting a kiss? I'll take it. Why are you wearing a bin bag? Are you calling my Man United kit a bin bag? This is, like, you can't deny this is a nice kit. You can't really see it. It's a nice kit. As Manchester United kits go, even if you're not a fan, it's a nice kit. We love you, Raptor. Always supportive. Thank you very much. Did you choose to be bald? No, I could have a... yes. Yes, I could have really long, luscious hair if I wanted to. Had a proper giggle with you then. I'm glad I could make you laugh. As long as you were laughing with me rather than at me, then we're all good. We are the same height. Excellent. Can you round up to 10 foot on that logic? Yes, I can. Yeah, I'm 10 foot. I'm 10 foot. A lot of short people on here. Listen, that's not short. I don't know what you're saying. I'm huge. When do we add Mason Mount? Probably for the double game week next week. Reheated nuggets in uni, not bad. Listen, you can eat pretty much any food the next day and it's still great. People that don't do that, I judge them. If you judge me for eating food the next day, I judge you for not eating food the next day. Hey, Raptor, what's your gut telling you? My gut's telling me I'm hungry. Walker starting or benched? I think benched. But the people that I trust to predict the Man City lineups have predicted Walker to start. So if you trust me, who's not trustworthy at all, I think Stones could start at right back. If you trust everyone else, Walker starts. So yeah, Walker probably starts then. You said you weren't feeling the love, so I had to send kisses. Oh, I see. Thank you for sending the kisses then. What other sports do you watch? I watch darts. I watch a little bit of NBA whenever I can, but not enough. What other sports do I watch? I don't really. I don't even watch football outside the Premier League particularly. I'm very much watch every Premier League game possible and extended highlights. And outside of that, I don't do a massive amount. You should get the United third kit for streaming, wink. Have no body. Not porridge. What was this in relation to? Sorry, that squeak was really loud. No, I didn't have porridge this morning. I don't really have breakfast. I'm not a big breakfast person. I'll have a coffee sometimes. Outside of that, I like having a big lunch, big dinner. I love your streams, and I love you, KH. Thank you for loving the streams. Would you start an OnlyFans and take your cap off? Do you want me to? I could if you want me to. I'm not going to. Never watch Super Size Me if you like eating chicken nuggets. I think I've seen parts of it, but yeah, maybe avoid that. Favorite darts players. My favorite dart. I love Van Gerwen. I know not everyone does. I'm a big fan of Van Gerwen. I like Michael Smith. Who else do I like? I quite like Rob Cross as well. I clearly like the bald guys. I've just named 2 bald guys there, but yeah, I probably Van Gerwen and Rob Cross I like. He watches the Toronto Raptors. Hell yeah, I am. I'm a Raptors fan, so but I don't watch enough. It's the timings is just awkward. Velociraptors are between 5 and 7 foot, so I'd say you're roughly the right height. I feel like this is wrong. Yellen and I were having a chat about the height of a Velociraptor the other day. Height of, I feel like they're like 4 foot high, but they're quite long. One sec, I'm Googling this. Height of a Velociraptor. Yeah, a Velociraptor is 1.6 feet tall. Like a Velociraptor's like this, but really long. So, wait. Yeah, so they're between... They're between 5 and 7 feet long, but 1.6 feet tall. So, like, really like that, but then massively long. So, what I say to the ladies is I might not be the tallest, but I'm very long. And that works really well. It's a great chat up line. But it kind of relies on them knowing that I'm FPL Raptor before I say I'm not that tall, but I'm very long. So I guess it would only work on someone that knows FPL rap. Do you know what? The chat line doesn't work. Joe Cullen, yeah, I like Joe Cullen. I would be your first OnlyFans subscriber. I have way too many people asking me to do OnlyFans at this. But you know what? I'm just going to do it. 2023. OnlyFans coming soon. You're the man, Ross. I hope you hit 100k subs. I believe you will. Thank you very much, Craig. I appreciate you watching all the videos and the streams as well. I have some advice for you. I estimate there is a correlation between owning a TV and having a girlfriend of 75% on the grounds of Netflix and chill with an alpha of 5%. Firstly, love that. Maybe I need to get a TV. Is that where I'm going wrong? Somehow I don't think my lack of TV is the reason I'm single. Ross, your post-deadline stream content is unmatched. Absolutely hilarious. Thank you, Leon. I appreciate you being here, my man. They're short kings. Velociraptors are short kings. Absolutely. I was worried the minute you said what I say to the ladies. Why are you worried? I am excellent with ladies. Raptor, go up to the ladies and say you can be their deadline daddy. God, I almost just had a coughing fit. I like that, Ben. Deadline daddy. These jokes are all reliant on them knowing that I'm FPL Raptor. And I suppose my issue might be that I don't really want to tell them I'm FPL Raptor because I don't feel like that would increase my chances of success. Onion bhajis or a good naan bread. Both fantastic. I'm going to go for a good naan bread depending on the curry. Like if I have jalfrezi or a madras, a naan bread's good. But if you're having like tikka or tandoori, then the naan bread's useless, right? So I'm going to go naan bread most of the time. Do you take long in the bathroom? What are you talking about here? I'm going to say no to everything. Add it to the Tinder profile. Yeah, maybe. I feel like on one stream at some point I'll have to show everyone my Tinder profile. Ross, I hope you become your risky self when more doubles come. You've been very safe. I agree, Matt. As soon as the doubles come, I will start to make some risky decisions for sure. I have been a little bit safe. Oh, the camera's gone. There we go. That's a sign. As much as I love chatting to you all, the camera dying is a sign that I'm going to go demolish my Indian takeaway. So, thank you very much as always. I appreciate and love you all. Thank you for being here for the stream. And I will catch you for a team selection video for Game Week 19 and another deadline stream for Game Week 19. And then we've got a bit of a break till Game Week 20. So, I love you all. Enjoy your evening. And I'll catch you soon. And Happy New Year's as well.